It's time for Mac Break Weekly. Renee Ritchie's off somewhere, getting briefings, I'd guess, from Apple. But Christina Warren has agreed to fill in, which is great. Andy Anako's also here. Alex Lindsay. And what are we going to talk about? What do you think? The brand new MacBooks. Just some really interesting information about the chip, what it can do, its potentiality, and some speculation about what's next from Apple. This is a very exciting time to be a Macintosh user. And we'll talk all about it next on Mac Break Weekly.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is Mac Break Weekly, episode 788, recorded Tuesday, October 19th, 2021. Notchgate. Mac Break Weekly is brought to you by userway.org. Userway ensures your website is accessible, ADA compliant, and helps your business avoid accessibility-related lawsuits. The perfect way to showcase your brand's commitment to millions of people with disabilities. It's not only the right thing to do, it's also the law. Go to userway.org/twit for 30% off Userway's AI-powered accessibility solution. And by BlockFi. BlockFi's Bitcoin Rewards Card lets you earn unlimited 1.5% back in Bitcoin on all qualifying purchases, plus a bonus of $25 in crypto after you make your first purchase. Sign up today at blockfi.com/MacBreak. And by IT Pro TV. The IT world needs cybersecurity more than ever, along with qualified people to fill its roles. Get your cybersecurity certs with IT Pro TV. Visit itpro.tv/MacBreak for an additional 30% off all consumer subscriptions for the lifetime of your active subscription when you use the code MacBreak30 at checkout. It's time for Mac Break Weekly. Oh, boy, I've been waiting for this for a whole day. The show where we cover the latest news from Apple. Renee Ritchie, as expected, is somewhere. Don't know where. Getting something. We don't know what. But I'm glad to say Christina Warren has agreed to join us. She is, of course, a longtime Mac fan, has been on the show many times before. Now, senior developer advocate at Microsoft, senior cloud advocate, and always good to have you on, Christina. And you ordered already, I hear.
I did. I already ordered, and also I'm wearing my my ATP M1 shirt. If you can see this,
that's fancy.
This is a shirt that came out with last year for the tech podcast, Accidental Tech Podcast, and I figured it'd be fitting that I would wear my M1 podcast, my M1 shirt now that it's obsolete. Now that we have the M1 Pro and
Pro and Max. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Andy Anako is also here from WGBH in Boston. Good to see you, Andy. He's busy trying to order a Pixel phone, as am I.
No. I've given up trying to order a Pixel phone. Mankind was born under trouble just as surely as the sparks fly upward. It's said in the book of Job, and I don't think Job had it half as bad as...
Job would have been impatient had he had to order a Pixel phone. Apparently, the site's just broken. It's just broken. And a lot of people who, like us, who had been ordering for hours, Jeff Jarvis just tweeted he'd been on, trying to check out for an hour when he finally got a message. No, it's all sold out. Never mind.
Yeah, me too.
You got that too. Yeah, I'm still hitting refresh. Also with us, Alex Lindsay. I just want to know how disappointed you are, Alex, that you didn't get a new Mac Mini.
Well, I'm not buying the MacBook yet, so I'm holding out. I'm going to see if I can. It's so tempting, but I was kind of like, I really don't need another MacBook Pro right now. Right. I just got one. I have a 2020 that's relatively in its last version, and it's so tempting to get one when you look at the chips. But I was like, what I really need is that inside of a Mac Mini.
We're going to talk about all the specs and so forth in a little bit because there's a lot to say, but maybe we'll do the high-level conversation first. Apple did not announce a Mac Mini. In fact, Apple's event scared me a little bit. Started by talking about colors for the HomePod Mini.
Oh God! What canceled? What product failed in testing?
Yeah.
They had
maybe
to find
that's where the Mac Mini was going to be. And
yeah, exactly. They were like,
Boy.
"Do we have any of the Mac Minis that we can show?" No, we're not done yet with them. Yeah, we need another week.
No, they haven't
HomePods
cooled off
in.
yet. We can't get we can't get them to cool down and put the sticker on.
What else do we have that's small? Because we got all these rooms and we got to put them in the
mini
dance
thing.
around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so now they're in colors. I couldn't care less. Then they announced these as long-awaited AirPods, the 3rd generation, at 179 smackaroonies, which I guess they're kind of like Pro Juniors in a way.
Yeah. You get the adaptive EQ. You don't get the noise cancellation. You get the better fit. So it's not a small markdown. So that there are a lot of people who are going to say, well, in-ear buds don't do great noise cancellation anyway. I'd much rather have some extra money in my pocket. The thing that I thought was equally good was that they cut the price of the AirPods down to not nothing, but close to like what commodity earbuds go for. So now they're very much more affordable for a lot of people who either tend to lose earbuds and they don't want to risk like $300 on something that they might be limited to mono in about 2.5 weeks' time on the subway. I think that's a really great thing. It's also a good trend for Apple, consistently saying, rather than take the cheaper, the original version off the market, we're going to continue to make them, but we're going to cut the price way down. I think that's a really good thing that Apple's been doing.
Yes, so they're keeping all of them, right? Yeah.
On some of my older AirPods, I did do the washer tests, for everybody. Sometimes they say that it actually
Very
improves
generous
the quality of the
Yeah.
AirPod. The AirPod. Mine did not. It actually just stopped working.
Yeah.
So it depends. I wonder though.
Every pair I've
probably
washed have stopped working as well. So I think you're close.
I think that we have to think about but was it cold or hot or warm? I mean, which one actually? I have had friends that have washed them and they said they got rid of all the earwax and everything else and it worked great. But
don't recommend
that was
it.
not my experience.
Don't recommend
Not my
it.
experience.
Nope, not our experience. Somebody pointed out I did miss something. In fact, at first I didn't understand it. They said a voice-only version of Apple Music for $5. But really, that's a price cut. It means if you don't want to make playlists, if you don't want to interact with it in any way except through voice.
It's Pandora.
Without the ads.
Without the ads and without and I don't think it'll just play. I think you need to keep on asking it what you want it to play, right?
You can't say play.
Oh no, you're right. It does do radio stations.
Yeah, you can say radio.
Whatever the radio
okay.
station. Right.
So I could say.
Right, but if you want to play an album, you have to say like play this album.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Right.
Does that feel weird to anyone but just me? It's like it's it's weird.
It must be an offering.
The name is terrible. The concept is terrible. I mean, I don't know.
Is it in response to what Spotify does?
Well, I think that the issue is that it's kind of a gateway drug because the issue is for a long time the only way I used Apple Music was so that I could just call out a song and it would play it. So even though I subscribed to it, the only thing I was using it for was I just want to have access to it. When I say play this, I just want it to play on my phone. And so that's the market that they're going. The market
it's for young. I've got to think it's for young people. Yes,
already have Spotify. Well, it's also the people who already have Spotify. They're not going to pay for it. They already have all their playlists. They're not going to do it again in Apple Music, but they do want to have access to just being able to call it out. And Apple can get a little bit more money there and get you used to the fact that the audio sounds considerably better on my Macs from Apple Music than it does from Spotify. So what happens is if you start playing them back and forth, you stop. The big thing with Apple Music and Spotify, if you have the AirPod Max or better, or you have real headphones, as soon as you start playing the two of them together, you stop using Spotify. Like it just sounds so much better.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. I think though that probably what they're going after. I think they're still trying to make HomePod happen, and HomePod's never going to happen because Siri's never going to happen. But this is very much a whole okay, you can buy this $99 now in ugly color, devices, and we have like a competitor of Google or YouTube Music or whatever it's called now, and Spotify is pairing with the various Alexa devices. So I think that's kind of what it is. I feel like the $5 point. I've seen a few of my followers have said that they're going to switch to it because, like you, all they use it for is just to call out and play a certain song or station on demand.
And you have these new dinner party playlists. where it plays
Right.
music I would never in a million years play at my dinner parties, but okay.
Right.
Yeah.
But I feel like the big thing is probably to try to bring in synergy for this product and for this ecosystem. That I agree with you, Alex. Like I think that Apple Music sounds better, especially if you have good headphones. But if you're listening to it from like a $50 speaker or something, which I think a lot of people might be, I think that I'm not sure if the delta's there. But here I think they're like, okay, you can buy, because you already are in our ecosystem with these other things, so you can now buy this less expensive speaker, which is, I think, priced adequately. I just wish it worked with other services. And if you want a cheaper music alternative that doesn't have ads, you can pick that up for $5 a month. But I don't know how many people will actually be subscribing to this.
I can only think they did some research or some competitive market survey. Something stimulated this. Maybe they found out that there's a certain category of people who don't have a lot of money. I'm thinking younger people, maybe college students, who would they've got a speaker in the dorm room and they would subscribe. I can only think that.
I think this indicates exactly how competitive the music market is and how aggressively Apple is trying to get every sign-up they possibly can. The numbers are Apple Music has been doing fantastic, but they're still way behind Spotify. And when you look at everything they're doing when they to get users, the idea of not all Spotify doesn't even officially have high-res music, doesn't officially have Dolby Atmos yet. Apple's giving you that for free. It's not even going to be it's not even an extra tier. And now they're also saying, well, if there are people, they're basically saying we're trying to get rid of any reason someone has to not even try Apple Music, and cutting the price in half. Okay, it would be interesting if that were a freebie that you get with your Apple product, because remember, Siri means that you are an Apple hardware owner. But this is, I think it just shows how eager Apple is to be a player in this market.
And I think there's actually a market for it. I mean, I think that my kids and my wife are probably a pretty good example of the market. We have the original HomePod sitting in the kitchen. It's used almost constantly. Like it is literally there constantly playing out, and they don't have any playlists. They don't have any. They just call out songs. They call out. They use the timer a lot, and they don't have Apple Watches. So my wife doesn't wear a watch, and so they're constantly calling out timers while they're cooking, and then they're listening to music, and it's if the TV isn't running, which is in a adjacent space, that HomePod is running almost all the time, and a lot of it had to do with I just decided I didn't want to. I had an Amazon appliance in there for a while, and I have the Facebook appliance, but I don't leave it on. And then I also just a little bit of a Google. I have the Google one, and I tested them. And the bottom line was, from a privacy perspective, I just decided to stick with the HomePod in the kitchen. And so as a result, I think that I don't think the market is massive. I think that there's a sliver there, but I think that there is a group of people that aren't building the playlist that just want to just call out a song or an album or a radio station and let it play. I mean, I definitely think that's a viable market.
Yeah, well, obviously Apple does too, so that's the market, right? Let's take a little break, because I'm really, this is terrible of me. I'm teasing the hell out of everybody, but there is something to talk about. We're going to talk a lot about.
You're just trying to delay the pain of explaining to people how much money you spent yesterday.
Oh my God!
And everybody on this panel, except for me, maybe.
Was that an expensive day yesterday? But no, Alex didn't buy anything. Christina, you bought one notebook. I only bought 3.
Only one.
Only one.
3.
They're very expensive. But I wanted to get one for review as quickly as possible. It turns out, as far as I could tell, the only way to do that was buying a base model. No build-to-order options at all. So I got a 14-inch with the Mac, the M1 Pro, with 512 gigs of storage. I like it an animal, but I'll survive, and probably review and return, but we'll see. I might actually be taking that to Mexico, because it does come next Tuesday. It'll come a week from today. Then if you did any build-to-order options, you could see quite quickly that it wouldn't be available till next month. In fact, I ordered, as you did, Christina, kind of a maxed out 16-inch, which is I think we're going to review, and then it'll go to one of our editors, Anthony Nielsen, who really needs a high-end laptop. And then I ordered one for my, as I had promised, for a graduation gift for my nephew, and that one I waited a little while. December 3rd or December 3rd. Or December 5th through the 23rd, I think it said. So it's going to be, so they're already pretty long out. And that's not a surprise with the supply chain shortages and so forth. Just parenthetically, I know it's not a Google show, but earlier today, Google had its announcement for the Pixel 6 phones. And as far as we can tell, as I mentioned, Andy, Jeff Jarvis, and I, none of us have been able to order it. And there seems to be widespread problems with their website. And it sounds like they're selling out quite quickly. In fact, somebody said the Pro is completely sold out in our chat room, which happened within minutes of the announcement.
I do have an update. While we're going into commercial, I decided to see, well, what if it will now let me put my 6 Pro into the cart, but once again, I'm getting stuck at checkout, error code R008. So far, the Pixel 6 is delivering a very Apple iPhone-like experience. So
actually,
starting off on the right foot.
Well, I was going to... Oh, I just ordered one.
Hey!
It just went through. Son of a bitch. They must have heard me. So
I might be distracted for the next 15 minutes.
So this, I was going to say how unlike Apple this order process is, but... I mean,
Apple's had definitely the same. It just happens at 5 o'clock in the morning. All of us at 5 o'clock in the morning.
No, that's true. It's at 5 a.m.
They just move us so that all of our complaints just kind of are outside of the broadcast time.
It also makes me wonder about the supply chain issues, frankly, that everybody is subject to. There was a story this week that Google had ordered double the number of Pixel 6 phones, twice as many as they sold last year, 7 million. But ordered today doesn't mean delivered tomorrow. So we'll see what happens. I think that supply chain problem is very much an ongoing issue. All right, let's take a. Is it too early to take a break? No, it's all right. Let's take a little break, and we're going to come back and really dive deep on these. It's a little early. Nobody has one of these laptops yet. If anybody does, they can't talk about it yet. Renee probably will come back next week with some, but whether he'll be able to talk about it, I don't know.
We're going to see some really well edited, like motion graphics videos coming out from him without any comment. Like,
all of a sudden,
let's take a look at this new cleaning cloth, and suddenly there's a 3D transform.
Yep. Oh yeah. Did anybody order the $19 cleaning cloth?
No.
It's kind of funny that Apple.
They used to include them in the box. I remember back when they used to include them in the box with the iMacs and with the laptops even. No, Apple, I love you. Not giving you $19 for a microfiber cloth. Not doing it. Not doing it.
No.
That was such an easier sell back when they had that posh British guy who could explain the chamfer angle on the nap of this fabric was bespoke to the product and the glass. Like, well, all right, you sweet talked me into it, you smooth talking son of a gun.
I have to think that actually we will talk about this. The loss of Johnny Ive might actually have been a good thing for Apple, given. Yes. Basically the retreat from the 2016 MacBook Pro and all of its changes. But we're going to get to all of that in just a second. Christina Warren is here. Film girl, great to have you and your Animal Crossing. Are you excited about the new Animal Crossing?
I'm very excited. Yeah. I'm very excited. I'm going to get the expansion and pay for the new Nintendo add-on service because even Nintendo is gone subscription as a service.
$5 a month?
I mean,
you can get Apple Voice Music for that.
I already pay for Apple One, so like the premiere thing.
No point.
Yeah, no point.
No point. I noticed though you have left the tags on your Animal Crossing critters.
I have.
Is that because they're collectibles or?
Probably. I don't know. I think of two minds of those things. Yeah, it kind of feels like it's a collectible thing. I don't know. Next time I see you, I'll have different dolls, and the tags will be off.
I think you should consider minting NFTs for your Animal Crossing critters.
That's not a bad idea. That's not a bad idea.
It's a little more money that way. Andy Anaka also here, WGBH in Boston, from officehours.global and 090.media. Alex Lindsay, who shocked me. I thought by now you'd have a $10,000 bill for new MacBook Pros, but we'll find out why.
We'll see.
We'll find out why you didn't buy in just a bit. Our show today brought to you by userway.org. I am a huge fan of this company. Userway is amazing, and I love the vision. Every website, without exception, needs to be accessible because websites are public entities. And the Federal Americans with Disabilities Act mandates equal access to services for all Americans. It's also, frankly, it's the right thing to do. And, of course, you can be liable if your website doesn't meet these laws for accessibility. UserWay is the right answer. It's very, very smart, an incredible AI-powered solution that tirelessly enforces the hundreds of WCAG guidelines, the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines proposed by the W3C. With just one line of JavaScript, UserWay can achieve more than an entire team of developers. And it's fully customizable. I'll give you an idea of why AI is so important. One of the things we all need to do is put, and you know this, text alt tags in all your images. Otherwise, somebody using a screen reader just sees a blob. They don't know what's there. AI helps you because it can recognize the content of images and automatically supply those alt tags. Now, you may want to enhance it. So UserWay's AI might say, well, that's a picture of the Golden Gate Bridge. Add that as the alt tag. You might want to enhance that. Say that's a Golden Gate Bridge at sunset. And I don't know what else. There's birds flying over. You can do that. UserWay makes it easy to do that. That's probably why it's used by over 1 million websites. Coca-Cola, Disney, eBay, FedEx, many leading brands use UserWay's machine learning solutions to make their sites accessible. And now UserWay is making this best-in-class enterprise-level accessibility tool available to you, small and medium-sized businesses. When I asked how much, I was pleasantly surprised. Very affordable. And as you grow, so will UserWay. If it can handle Disney, it can handle you. When you scale, you need UserWay. UserWay, to understand what it's doing, you need to understand kind of how accessibility works on the web. Every browser gives you, and if you're sighted, you're probably seeing this, the page. But every browser also generates what they call an accessibility layer. That's what screen readers see. That's what other tools for disabled users see. And that accessibility layer is very important. But your website may not be generating an accessibility layer or a complete accessibility layer, and that's what UserWay will help it to do. Things like, for instance, you need to use accessible colors. Now, you want to remain true to your brand and stick with your Pantone colors, of course, but what UserWay does is it tweaks it with hue and luminance, and in the accessibility layer, there is a more accessible color for people who need it. The biggest problem, I'm told, for people without vision or just people with low vision is complex nav menus. Those are murder and hard to fix, except UserWay fixes it automatically and ensures all the pop-ups are accessible, fixes vague link violations, fixes any broken links, and you'll get a detailed report of all the violations that were fixed on your website. It's using machine learning, computer vision, AI to automatically fix it at the code level. And it's so cool because it works with WordPress and Shopify and Wix. It's cost-effective, easy to add. Same goes for AEM, Sitecore, SharePoint. It integrates seamlessly with everything you use. Even if you have your own hand-coded site, that line of JavaScript fixes it all. Let UserWay help your business meet its compliance goals and improve the experience for your users. Check out their free scanning tool. You can go right to the website, userway.org/twit, and see if your website's ADA compliant. They asked the voice of Siri, the world's most popular voice assistant, what she thinks of UserWay. Watch.
UserWay is trusted by more than 1 million websites and 60 million users with disabilities. Visit userway.org to learn how one line of code can make your website accessible.
60 million users, and that's the most important bottom line. That's opening up your site to 60 million new users. UserWay can make any website fully accessible. It's not only a good idea, it's the law. It's ADA compliant. With UserWay, everyone who visits your site can browse seamlessly, customize it to fit your needs. It's also a perfect way to showcase your commitment to millions of people with disabilities. We really need to do this. Go to userway.org/twit. We're going to get you 30% off UserWay's AI-powered accessibility solution if you go to that address. So please do. userway.org/twit. UserWay, making the internet accessible. We thank them so much for their support of MacBreak Weekly, for the good work they're doing for users all over the world. And we thank you for supporting us by going to the special address that we've arranged, userway.org/twit. Twit. Okay, Alex, why aren't you buying the best computers I've ever seen in my whole life? Oh, you're muted. See, if you had a M1 Pro, you wouldn't need.
It would have just known that
it would
the
just
neural
know.
engine would have been like, he's talking. I'm going to turn this on. I think that for a decade, I spent 250,000 miles a year flying, and my whole world was just a laptop. So I didn't even want another computer because I just wanted everything in one place, the same ecosystem, the same everything else. And I was always somewhere. I'd wake up trying to figure out where I was, and then I'd go back to work. And I was very mobile. I'm not mobile as much as mobile as I used to be.
You don't need it. You want.
I just don't need it. And the problem is that it's not just that I have a desktop. It's that I've kind of collected a lot of stuff in that desktop. And so I have multiple computers and multiple monitors and multiple things, and I'm very comfortable working here. And I've also gotten into the habit of, we talked about this a little bit in office hours this morning, that a lot of people travel, and then a lot of people travel around their house. I've learned that I don't like to do that. So
you don't want
really
a laptop sitting in your lap at breakfast.
No, I don't mind taking my iPad to draw on things or to go through stuff. I actually don't want a computer outside of my office. That's what I really got. I think that it's kind of a COVID thing that, being here so much and realizing that I had to set limits, in my house because
that's reasonable.
I really got that I really like the idea that my tech is in my house. And
my thought
in my office
on this is that it seems to be what Apple is doing, because we thought that they were going to announce a Mini.
Right.
Is they're making distinct lines between mobile, the MacBooks, and desktop. And I think what we're going to see, and the real question, and I'd love to know what you guys think, is when are they going to announce desktops? Because they've got a Mac Mini, they've got an iMac that definitely needs to be updated. They're really only offering a low-end, small-screen iMac. And, of course, then there's the Mac Pro. We know this is going to happen, in year 2. And that's another thing. Right at the beginning, Tim Cook said, we're in year 1 of our 2-year transition. They made that very clear. Yeah. I think, spring for a desktop?
I think it could be faster. That's why I'm holding out, because it's really hard. The level of the speed jump is kind of dramatic. And so,
well, this is the other surprise. They're almost doubling the performance of the M1, which was already remarkable.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and so
This is what was so impressive to me about yesterday, that when you look at what they did to introduce these two processors, they're still talking about performance per watt. They're still talking about how much heat it's expending. They're still
something you don't care about with desktops mostly.
No,
right?
I'm saying that they're still only building laptop CPUs. And imagine what's going to happen when they release a CPU, a desktop Mac, where they don't have to worry about heat because they can put in a fan. They don't have to worry about the die size because they have enough room for that. They don't have to worry about power consumption because it's always plugged into AC. I think that there's something really exceptional that's going to be coming up in the next few months, probably in the next year, and that's why I was a little disappointed that there wasn't a Mac Mini, because this is what I really want to get, a really good desktop version of it, not the first version of it. But now I'm like, oh my God, if rather than getting a laptop version of Apple Silicon, if I can get the first desktop Silicon in this M1, that's going to be worth a couple $1,000s of anybody's money, I think.
Christina, you agree this is kind of a surprising jump in performance?
Yeah, no, I mean, I was expecting, or I wasn't expecting. Well, okay, first,
we thought we were going to get an M1X, right? We thought we were going to get a slightly improved version of the M1.
I mean, I figured that we would get more RAM, and that was really what I was requiring. For me, I need 32 gigs minimum. I went for 64. That's probably overkill, but this is going to be a 5-year laptop, more than likely. Won't be the only thing I buy in 5 years, but it'll be, that's about how often I buy, go all in on a high-end MacBook. So, I was able to kind of amortize it in my mind that way. So I was like, okay, I need at least 32 gigs of RAM. I was expecting that. I was expecting some improved GPU performance. We're going to have to wait for the testing to see how good that really is. But the generational leap was shocking to me and was really impressive. And I actually was not expecting a Mac Mini, just given how infrequently they update that product. I was not expecting that, but I do agree that, and I also, just because we didn't have any leaks, I wasn't expecting the iMacs as great as that would have been. But I do agree that this does, I think, bode really well for what, a mini that is either unencumbered or more likely, an iMac or potentially even a Mac Pro, could look like when you don't have the constraints of saying, okay, we need to have this performance per watt, and this needs to be able to run, the fact that it's running with the same high speed, whether you're plugged in or not, is really, really incredible when you look at the performance that it's outputting, that it's able to do all that delivered by battery. This is impressive, and I think it just continues the story about how much and how well Apple has done with Apple Silicon and what their chip strategy is, and why AMD and Intel are understandably, I'm sure, very, very uncomfortable looking, at least on the CPU side. GPUs, I think, are different, but I think are very uncomfortable with what they've been able to achieve with the last generation. And then if their benchmarks are, let's say they're 75% true, then this generation is going to be even more impressive.
What do you think? Spring? You think December? You think June?
No, not December. I think it depends on supply chain. I mean, the fact that you ordered a laptop that you're not going to be getting until December, that you ordered yesterday.
Yeah. In fact, I just got an email from Apple saying that, and you should check your email, Christina, because the one you and I ordered, which was going to be November 3rd, is now slipped to the 17th. So there are definitely issues.
There are definitely issues. There are a couple of things. One, and I don't know if this is the slippage for that. Some of that might be the port stuff, just the supply chain getting products over. But in general, I have a feeling that even though I know Apple buys up their ship time years in advance, I have a feeling most of that has been for phones, which they've said that they are not going to meet what their targets have been because that they can't get certain parts for the iPhone. I have to imagine that's going to be the same thing with these Macs. And I have to think that for the desktop stuff, especially if you're looking at a big redesign for something like the iMac and you're looking at new parts and other tooling, I don't even want to speculate, because usually I would say they probably would have announced it now, and maybe March, but who knows? It could be June. I don't want to know, just because the global situation is so up in the air with so many things right now. I don't think it's necessarily a matter of, is their engineering ready? It's a matter of, can we get the parts and can we produce this in the quantities that we need to produce it in?
We thought that these would be announced, and all the rumors were strong that these 14 and 16-inch MacBook Pros would be announced last June. And probably they were ready. The mini LED display was one of the things that was holding things up. You think, Alex, they'll be sooner?
I think they could be this fall. I mean, I actually think that they could go do another. Yeah, I don't think that they need to. I'll be honest. I don't know if they need to do a whole event for the Mac Minis at this point. I think they could literally go, oh, by the way, all those chips that you liked, they're in the Mac Mini. They've done that in the past with some of the desktop stuff, but but we would see. The problem is that typically the March announcement is dedicated to the iPad, and so they've done it in the past where they've added the Mac Mini into it. And it could hit that cycle. It just seems like there's an awful lot of people that are pent up that would be interested. And really, the M1 has taken the Mac Mini to an entirely different place than it was before. I've owned a lot of Mac Minis in the past. We use them as glue and just little servers and things that, to run things. And they're kind of the least expensive Mac that you can just have do Mac-like things, right? The thing that has changed them dramatically for us is the ability to run iPad apps, which we use a lot. And then the second thing is the fact that they're just so much faster. And we can run Resolve and Cinema 4D and all kinds of other things, and obviously Final Cut and Motion on them in a way that we weren't able to do in the previous Mac Minis. And so I think that there's a much stronger demand for them than there was before.
Yeah.
I agree with Christina. I don't think we're going to see it this year. I think that it really makes me think that they really are saying that we're doing mobile processors, and now we're doing desktop processors. And when they decide to do a desktop version, they're going to want to really splash out just as big as they splashed out yesterday. It's amazing when you consider that Apple had two huge announcements. One of them was that, the colossal failure of design from start to finish that was the 2016 MacBook Pro. We are reversing all of it. Andy was absolutely right, but that was almost only a footnote to just talk about how much time was spent just talking about silicon, just talking about CPU. And they're proud enough to show in an audience that they knew included an on-tech. Here is some imagery of the actual silicon that we have, so you can actually look at it if you have engineers on staff and find out exactly what we're doing, how we're placing components, where we're putting our lithography. I really do think that Apple's not going to do a single desktop until they have decided to. With the next generation stuff, until they really have the desktop part of the story told. Last year, yes, we did see an iMac, of course, with the M1. We did see a Mac Mini with the M1, but these are clearly like MacBook Air CPUs that they decided to just put into these new these current form factors. Because there's pent-up demand for it, people waiting for upgrade. It will be a serious upgrade over whatever people would have bought by Intel, but that's not what the experience that I think Apple wants to deliver. I think they want to show us a Mac Mini, something this small that costs well under $1,000, that can absolutely eat the lunch of anything that Intel or AMD is putting out.
It also answers a really important question. Because these Apple Silicon chips don't include discrete graphics from third parties, can Apple make a GPU to compete with the NVIDIA or AMD GPUs? And they direct compared it to the highest end laptop GPUs, and performance is almost equal for 100 watts less power. Here's the picture you were talking about.
But that's a big caveat there. 100 watts less power. That's a big caveat.
Yeah, I mean, a laptop you might care. I mean, they're claiming 21 hours of battery life.
No, I agree. I agree. What I'm saying, though, is that their comparison, when people say, oh, it's going against a 3070 or 3080, A, that's mobile, and B, that would be a wattage-constrained mobile version, which is not with the highest-end models of those go.
No, they showed that without they had a, I'll see if I can find that graph, but they had a graph that was, if it is, and they even admitted it's slightly better without wattage constraints.
So, right.
Yeah,
I'm just
graph.
saying, they show the graph, but I'm just saying until we get them, I'm skeptical about how close they are, because if it's like the wattage constrained models, maybe, and not to say that it's not very impressive. I'm just not willing to say, oh, they've created something that's as good as a mobile 30 whatever, because I don't know.
And the thing is that one of the things that will be really interesting is I don't think a lot of the benchmarks are going to make sense for a little while, because you're really just going to have to test them in the apps because of the way the apps use the GPU and the CPU. So they've really gotten out of, like, you can't, those benchmarks aren't going to make sense, because what does Cinema 4D do with this? What does Resolve do with this? What does Final Cut do with this? And how does it, and you have to do some real world, we're kind of going back into the real world testing, because the other testing may not be accurate. The fact that they're both on the same chip means that a lot of stuff doesn't have to be doubled up between the CPU and the GPU, that we have a much more efficient communication between them. All of those things are going to make a massive difference when it comes to graphics, and so it's a pretty profound change in the total architecture that's going to sit, I think, way above what just GPU speed means.
Yeah, the other question is going to be, remember that when you have these really, really super, super high-end graphics workstations inside Windows laptops, there's performance when it's connected to AC, and then there's performance when it's connected, when it's trying to go on its own. So that's got to be another good thing to take a look at. Is Apple saying that, this is not just good when you're inside at your office, this is also good when you're like in business class and you've got 6 hours to finish something because you're really really at the edge of it.
No, you're exactly right. And again, I'm not trying to take anything away from like what they've managed to accomplish.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you.
I'm just saying that it's an apple. It does seem like an apples to oranges comparison. I think the other thing that I'm concerned with when it comes to the GPU stuff, if I'm being honest, and I agree with Alex, like we're going to have to see the real benchmarks, is a lot of stuff that people use high-end GPUs for, excluding graphics work, is done on like machine learning and other things. And those are things like people use CUDA. That's what they use. They don't use Apple's APIs. They are not going to use Apple's APIs. So in some cases, some of this, if I'm just being completely candid, like this is not something that I would give to somebody who's going to be doing work in R. or a lot of high-end machine learning stuff, because AI Kit and Apple's tools are not what they use and are not what people are going to rewrite their toolkits for, at least not in the next few years. So the impact, and it's not like we have games on the Mac. We don't. So, I feel like it's awesome, and I'm excited about it, and I'm excited to do really good like video stuff and play around with a lot of motion effects and whatnot. But in terms of the net impact, I don't know, because graphics are not an area where Apple has a big play right now in either the machine learning space or space.
And I just don't know how I don't know how big the machine learning market is compared to the graphics market. Even at a low level. I mean, I think that the last installed base I saw of Photoshop, years ago was 20 million. that was a couple
right.
decades
Oh yeah.
ago. So it's a really big number. So the machine learning is a I'm sure it's a growing market, but the worldwide graphics market at all levels, not at the highest level, but at all levels is a pretty big market to fit into.
So the other thing, and it's again, we won't have really any real idea what the real world experience is going to be until we get our hands on these. So right now, a lot of what we're saying is speculation. But I'm looking at notebookcheck.net, which did some calculations, and it looks like a 32-core M1 Max processor, a GPU, can do 10.4 teraflops, which puts it in pretty high range. That's a fast GPU.
And we have to remember, this is only step 2.
In a notebook.
This is only step 2 in a notebook. I mean,
yeah.
So the RTX 2080 does 10 teraflops, 10.07. The PS5 is 10.28. Your M1 Max maxed out is 10.4 teraflops. Now, teraflops aren't the only story. You're right. There's CUDA cores and things like that, but still, that's in terms of raw performance. If those numbers are accurate, that's pretty impressive.
No, it's unbelievably impressive. I think for me, the big thing is just like, is the software going to take advantage of it?
The tools, yes, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean that's me, and I just, at least for the people who are other than the highest end, even the highest end graphical workstations are usually Linux based. They're not Mac based. So like render farms and stuff. So this is a potential that Apple could get back into a market they abandoned. But we just need to see if the tools will step up. But I feel like the potential is there.
And I think that the interesting thing here within the graphics is the reports that you're getting back from, again, companies like Blackmagic with Resolve and with Cinema 4D with Maxon. The multipliers are intense, of how much faster, 3x faster, 4x faster. I mean, we've been in a mode for the last decade of 30% improvement and 50% improvement and 25% improvement. Yeah. And suddenly we're like 2x and 3x and 4x. And that is I mean, I can definitely see that's why someone like me is looking at the Mac Minis, is that the idea of stacking, Cinema 4D on, 10 Mac Minis is really interesting to me with the new chips, where because they're so inexpensive, and so, because I don't need the screen, I don't need all that stuff. I just want to put them in. I just want to put racks of them in there and let it go.
Yeah, just put racks on racks on racks.
Yeah, and so I mean so the two Mac Minis that I have, two M1, the M1 Mac Minis. And most of what they do all day is they're rendering things. I just send things over to them while I'm working, and they get to do work while I'm working, and that's why I don't need the screens. I mean, I prefer to have the screens on arms that I can move around and everything else. And so, but we have racks of Mac Minis, and that's the real power. And I think that, but these chips, I mean, they're just it's a paradigm shift, I think, for the whole computing industry. And I think that it's going to be very hard for the rest of the industry to really replicate it. I think that's the hard part, is that you need all the pieces. You need Xcode, you need the hardware, the software, the infrastructure, all of those things. You have to have control of all of them to make this work, I think. I don't know if...
Yeah. Apple's claiming a doubling in performance, in CPU performance, over their last MacBook 16-inch, the Core i9. Yeah. They're claiming, this is really amazing. In fact, it really looks like the Max is all about improved GPU, because it's 4 times faster than a Radeon Pro 5600 in a MacBook Pro 16-inch. So, when you're talking about doubling the CPU and quadrupling the GPU of your most recent, fastest computer. Remember also the 16-inch 9.9 was very much thermally constrained. That was a big problem, and of course those also get better. So this is a To me, I thought we would see an incremental improvement on the M1. The fact that we're seeing something so dramatically better implies to me that we're going to see even more dramatic improvement next year with a Mac Pro. This is really interesting. This is
one of the other real. I'm sorry for interrupting. One of the other hallmarks of yesterday was you noticed that this wasn't a, hey, we've totally reinvented the M1 to make the M1 Pro and the M1 Max. It really is building upon what they built last year, and the decision and the elevation from the M1 Pro to the M1 Max is just we took the M1 Pro and added more stuff to it and made it considerably more powerful for certain tasks and for certain things that are going to be very relevant for creative professionals. So that's another really enticing thing about this whole platform, that Apple is not going to have to wait until, well, we have to figure out a new way to trick electrons into going faster through narrower channels. It's like, no, we can just change an architecture here. It's like they've dropped a really good engine into a car that doesn't have any aerodynamic properties, that all we have to do is change it. We built a truck, now we can build a race car, now we can build a hypercar. It's very, very encouraging for the whole future of this thing.
And I think that the issue is that it is just a seamless, like we can just keep turning that dial up. Exactly. Apple's kind of known for pacing. Yep. So if Apple's already going 2x, 4x now, that means we have to remember that the chips that we're buying today were probably finished 2 years ago, 3 years ago. like they were probably like the design was
3 year.
3 years. Yeah. So they wouldn't be releasing them and excited about them if they thought they couldn't keep up the pace. Next year. And so I think that, and I think that there's probably, with any kind of new technology like that, there's potentially 3 to 5 years of this kind of movement. I think that's what's got everybody spooked. Again, because it's really hard to do if you don't own all the components. Getting everyone to write to metal, which they've been telling us to do for a long time. Like, hey, it'd be a really good idea if you. It started off really nicely, and then it was like, you guys really got to move over. And anyone who hasn't, who thought that they could write it better, is paying a price right now.
You mentioned, Andy, that this was a repudiation of the 2016 MacBooks. A repudiation that's long been welcomed.
This is the Andy was right about everything edition. They couldn't fit it all into the nameplate.
So, although I'll give credit to Alex, who demanded a return of the MagSafe. It's interesting. They only have 3 Thunderbolt ports and a MagSafe. You can't charge with the Thunderbolt ports. I wonder if they took the 4 Thunderbolt channels and took one of them for MagSafe. No, I said you could. But
I'm sorry.
But I don't know if they. I wonder if they took the 4th Thunderbolt channel and made that the MagSafe.
You also have an HDMI there too, so
you have an HDMI as well.
So maybe they split it. Yeah, okay.
I think it was probably split. Yeah, that's how I viewed it, because as we know from our framework laptops, Leo, you can just plug into one of the
Thunderbolt. The beauty of Thunderbolt 4 is
exactly. You can just plug in one of those things and it'll be HDMI out. I'm interested to see, I guess, when somebody does a teardown or like an investigation how the lanes work, because I had that same question, and then I thought, I guess maybe they just allocated some of that to HDMI. Obviously, they're saying that with the 32 core version, you can have 3 5Ks and like a 55-inch TV.
It's kind of amazing.
That's crazy.
Which is
6K,
insane.
I think.
So I'm very excited.
6K.
6K. Sorry, I have the lowly 5K.
Does the XDR is that 6K? The XDR.
The LG.
Is the XDR 6K?
Yeah.
I believe so. Yeah.
The XDR is 6K.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the poor people bought that Fuji 5K or they're losing
the
a
LG
whole K.
like me.
Or the LG,
we lost a whole K. Yeah. Although I bought mine used from Stephen Hackett. Thank you, Stephen.
Beatmaster's pointing out that and maybe you're disappointed, Alex. No Ethernet on the power brick. No Ethernet at all.
I mean, it was a bummer. But it's not. I thought a lot of us looked at it and go, "No, that's a perfect place to put it." But evidently,
it's a mobile device. I wouldn't be surprised. Let's see what the Mac Mini will certainly have Ethernet. Mac Pro will have Ethernet. iMac will have Ethernet. The small ones do on the brick.
One thing that that I don't think we've had before, unless I missed the update, is the also the ability to do fixed frame rate outputs that are actually really interesting to us. So in the ProMotion that they talked about, having 5994 and 2997 is not trivial to someone like me.
Right.
It is a huge problem that we have dealing with some of our hardware, is to be able to define a hard 5994 or 2997 for broadcast. And Apple's always been in almost always been in whole numbers. And so we've always run it through a frame converter to get that to get fixed. So the fact that it's putting that out now is exciting. And I'm not clear whether that was an OS thing or a hardware process.
I'm just kind of a little surprised at the HDMI port. I feel like with the 3 Thunderbolt 4 ports, you don't really need an HDMI port, but you're going to
use it so much.
No.
You know, like it's
Yeah.
I mean, I use it, but I always have a dongle. So at this point, I'm kind of like, okay. Although, I mean, I will say the dongles only work like half the time. Like, you always have to test them. But I do wonder at this point, because things have moved more quickly. I haven't spoken at conferences in a year and a half. And so
yes, projectors.
I don't.
Yes,
projectors. Well, projectors are the biggest thing,
rooms,
honestly.
yeah.
That
Conference
and like big, you know, theaters and whatnot. When I was doing the Ignite tour, you know, I went to, I think, like 20 different cities around the world, and we had a similar tech setup in most of them. But in some cases, like I had my MacBook that I was usually presenting off of. I always had a backup laptop too, and I had to have a couple of different, you know, docks to be able to have either the display port out from the USB-C or like an HDMI one, and then trying to get them aligned. So I do feel like, at least for projectors and those systems, it's good. But part of me wonders, and I'm curious what Andy and Alex think, you too, Leo, was this a decision?
You don't have to throw me in. It's okay.
Well, no, but you know, but I'm curious.
Maybe you. Okay, so yeah, no.
No. But I'm curious, like, what the panel thinks, because in my mind, this is 100% a repudiation of the 2016 design,
I
and
think
the fact
so.
that it was universally a failure in every way. This is 100% repudiation. But part of me wonders, okay, they probably started on this a few years ago. When they started on this, was an HDMI output a more necessary thing than it is even now? Because at this point, if you buy a monitor, unless it's a super low end, it's going to have USB-C on it. So I wonder if that part of that might have been like a relic of like the design decisions they were making, you know, 2 years ago, to say, yes, we're going to put HDMI and bring that back. And there's still a use case for it, and I'm excited to have it back, but maybe it's there because of the timing and not because of the market needs.
I also think, though, with HDMI, it's so what we, you know, there's so many of us that use it. It's, you know, it's my switcher, you know, my little Blackmagic switcher or whatever, and as well as, and so there's a lot of things that we use it for. And, you know, our KVMs, you know, are going to be HDMI. The other thing is that with monitors, there's only 3 things that I mean, it's great if there's a USB-C, but if it needs a VESA mount, a C13 cable input, you know, so that doesn't have any external power, and HDMI. Because I've had monitors without HDMI, and then you're constantly hunting around trying to figure out how to get into it. And so I think that is still so lingua franca of monitors, that I think that, you know, just being able to plug it in and just not have a dongle for that one thing, I think could make a lot of sense, especially if you're traveling and you just want to go into a conference room and make it work.
Absolutely. SD card, certainly anybody who's a photographer will be glad to see that, although a lot of pro cameras use other formats. But
I thought that was more odd than other ones, mostly because I just don't use SD cards that much anymore. But I thought that was more of like a like I know there's a lot of people that
it feels just as retro as the HDMI port to me.
That's more retro to me. To me, it was more retro. It was kind of like, really, do I need that? Because I admit I
will use it because I'm shooting the Sony A4s or A7s, which still use SD cards. But I think a lot of the higher end, like the R5, doesn't. Does it? What format does it use? Some sort of compact flash, right, or no?
I use CFast.
CFast.
CFast, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So that you would still need a reader for that.
Yeah. See, a lot of this is just that when you put the word "pro" at the end of something.
SD.
Go ahead. Let Andy finish. Then go ahead.
Sorry. When you this is what came up during all of our talks about the 2016 MacBook Pro. I think that when you put the word "pro" at the end of something, you're not expecting that I have to adapt everything that I do to the limitations of this machine. If it's a useful thing like an HDMI port, or maybe to a lesser extent in 2021 an SD card slot, if it's a useful thing and it doesn't corrupt the power or the price of the thing in general, you have to ask yourself, well, why aren't we putting this in? Like there's a reason why there isn't a micro SD slot on most phones, because there's just no room for it, and it's just not as useful as a thing as it could possibly be. On a pro laptop, when you're saying, please go forth with this creativity machine, go out and take pictures, go out and edit videos, it's the sort of thing that makes you think that you spent $2,000 to $4,000 on the right machine. You don't want to hear, yes, but we've given you something better than what you asked for. We've given you 4 channels of chamfer. It's like, no, I just really want that port. I really just want that SD card slot. So that's why it's such a change from last year, where we had a MacBook Pro and a MacBook Air that were functionally identical. The only difference was one has a fan and can cool off and run at slightly higher temperatures. Now we are really reclaiming what the word Pro means, I think, with this machine.
Keyboard, I guess, is going to be the same one as we've seen with the M1 MacBook Pros. Still,
no strip. None of that silly strip stuff at the top.
Oh yeah, hallelujah! Yeah. Function keys and a big escape key.
Huge escape key. It's the biggest damn key on the.
No, that should be. I hit the escape key all the time with my pinky.
Yeah, it was constantly, my thing was always figuring out, how do I just turn this thing off? Like yes, I lost my keys and I was upset about losing my keys, but all I wanted to do was turn that thing off.
Oh, I hit it by accident all the time.
And then it would be constantly doing something I didn't want it to do, and I was like, I just need this thing to just be not working. You know, like it just
just turn it off.
Disaster.
Yeah. Okay, good. So that's you're right. That is a huge improvement. Still has a fingerprint reader. The screen, now we're going to get finally these micro LED screens that we saw on the iPad Pro. Alex, you want to say anything about micro LED? I know you like it.
You know, the places that you're going to see issues still, it's great. I mean, it looks great. But where you see it is like with lots of small like stars. So small, bright
because of the
areas,
because of the full array local dimming, the backlight.
Yeah. So all that stuff you're going to see some,
not so much bleed from these little specular highlights, things like that.
So the things that are not things that are light over light, but it's light over dark is where you're going to start seeing that start to come out. And that's just the nature of the technology right now. And I think they do it as well as you can do it in the price point that we're talking about. The monitors that don't do that are really expensive.
120 hertz is very important, right? You like the higher frame rate?
It's going to be more important as we move forward. I mean, so I think that, right now we're not seeing a lot of 120 frame per second content, but we have now cameras that can shoot that and lots of devices that can play it back. And I don't think that 120 is great for games and it's great for your mouse moving around, but it's also good for content. It's a certain kind of content, not film content. Filmmakers go really crazy when I say that. 24 is fine for film, but when we talk about our home movies, when we talk about documentaries, when we talk about sports, concerts, and oddly enough, horror films. 120 is very compelling.
They're much scarier.
So
much scarier.
Right. I literally saw a test clip of a horror shot at 120 HDR, and within 30 seconds, I was like, nope. Like, I am not going to watch this. Like, I was like, nope. Like, it was too much for me. And so because it feels like what happens is at 120 frames per second at the resolutions that we're looking at now with these monitors, it just feels like a window that you're looking through. It doesn't feel like you'd be surprised at how much the frame rate doesn't matter in our heads while we're doing it. And everything just feels a little bit smoother until you get to somewhere between 90 and 120 frames per second. And then your brain just starts looking at that as, that's a window. And so it is literally a different psychological experience at 120 frames per second than it is and we're not seeing that yet because almost nothing can play it back, but all of our TVs at home can. They're all set up for that. When we think of that ProMotion or that motion effect or whatever, that's horrible because what they're doing, it looks like soap opera. It looks very soap opera because it's adding lots of frames in between the real frames. When you actually see 120 frames, the real frames on every frame, it looks completely different. But again, I don't think it's for film, for most films. But I think that what's going to happen, I think, people are going to start shooting 120 frame per second, and these devices are going to start playing it back. So if you're shooting 120 frame per second on your phone, the device will just play back 120 frames per second.
At this point, it's parity with the iPhone because you can shoot that fast. So
right. And what will happen is people will start to see it. And I can tell you from experience, you start watching 120 frame all the time, and you feel like you could have lunch between every frame at 24 frames a second. Yeah. Like, you know, so everything starts. What happens is everything looks stuttery and flickery when you're when you get used to it. And so what Apple, I think, when they start to go down that path, it starts to.
We'll get used to it. In other words,
you get used to it, and then you start looking. And again, I think that there's an important function psychologically of 24 frames a second, which is it tells our brain it's not true. And so we can sit there and have them do crazy things, and our brain doesn't bother with it. But there are some places where 120 frames per second is compelling, and I think Apple's going to take advantage of it.
We shall see when people start getting these, but I think a little underestimated is the thinness of this screen. It's a 4mm thick display, which means the lid is going to be extraordinarily slim.
Fragile.
And fragile. I thought of that too.
Don't open it on your in the row 33. That's all.
Like, be careful, because yeah. Now let's
Apple
get
Care,
you might want Apple Care on
Apple
this.
Care plan.
Did you buy Apple Care on yours?
Well, okay, so here's the weird thing. So because I paid with my Apple Card, because why not? Free financing.
Yep.
They wouldn't let me add the annual Apple Care to it on the card as part of the monthly payment. So I'll have to put it on my Apple Card as soon as I get the laptop. So yeah, I will. But what I'm going to do is typically, like with my iMac and my other stuff, I do the 3 years. This time, they're just like letting you pay $100 a year in perpetuity.
Oh, that's interesting.
So I'll just do that, especially I think because it includes like the, if it gets damaged, so everything but loss, which my homeowners would cover anyway. For the price of this, it would actually be worth the deductible.
You know what? $100 a year, and you can just extend it on and on and on. I actually think that's not a bad idea. I might do that too. Come to think of it, yeah. All right,
do we want to talk about the elephant in the room?
Yes, the elephant in the room.
Sorry.
But wait, let's take a break, and then the elephant will rear its ugly head. And there's also all sorts of little things like they implied that the SSD inside was much, much faster. Is it? I guess it is. They acted like, wow, you won't believe how fast it is. While nobody talks about it.
That number's correct. It was a lot faster. It was like 3 gigs a second.
Yeah,
crazy.
So
crazy numbers.
You might not think about that, but that can make it more of a difference in your experience with a device than anything else. Is the speed of the hard drive. So, hard drive. Listen to me, Mr. Old school
memory
storage.
Persistent memory and volatile memory. That's all you want to
That's probably all we need to. Yeah, and I cannot wait to see what 64 gigs of unified memory is like. That's mind-boggling. Mind-boggling. But we are going to take a break, and then Andy will be the elephant in the room. There's been a lot of conversation about this elephant. Our show today brought to you by BlockFi. I've been aware of it for some time because Lisa has a BlockFi card, and she loves it. She's got her BlockFi Black card, and with every purchase, she earns Bitcoin. And, of course, now with Bitcoin going through the roof, she has to let me know how much her Bitcoin is going up. BlockFi, whether you're a crypto pro or a total beginner, I know everybody's kind of interested in cryptocurrency. Here's an easy way to earn Bitcoin just doing what you do normally. It's a real Visa signature card. But you get Bitcoin rewards from BlockFi. Unlimited Bitcoin on every qualifying purchase you make. And you get all the benefits of a Visa Signature card, which is the best credit card of all. Grow your Bitcoin portfolio when you buy groceries, when you pay bills, when you fill up at the gas station, when you buy sneakers, Christina. 1.5% back in Bitcoin on all qualifying purchases with no reward limits. And it's a Visa signature card, so there's no annual fee. There's no foreign transaction fees. This is a great card with a really nice extra little bonus. Now's the time to start or ramp up your Bitcoin portfolio. Bitcoin saw a 230% annualized return in 2020. And I don't know if you've been following it. I think it was $60,000 this weekend. I don't look because I know that my wallet is forever lost to me. So I don't even want to know how much money is just sitting in it. BlockFi has been in the Bitcoin, the crypto business in a long time. They were named to Forbes FinTech 50 list in 2021. It's, you can turn your Bitcoin into other kinds of crypto because BlockFi is an easy place to buy, sell, and earn crypto. This is such a great way, if you've been thinking about this, to kind of get your feet wet with no risk. In fact, nothing but a reward. There's no better time to sign up and start earning Bitcoin today. Get a bonus $25 in crypto right now after you make your first purchase with the BlockFi card. Sign up at blockfi.com/MacBreak. BLOCKFI.com/MacBreak. That's a $25 bonus in crypto deposited right in your account after you make your first purchase. But you've got to use that address, blockfi.com/MacBreak. I think this is so cool. Start earning Bitcoin back on all your qualifying purchases today. BlockFi.com/MacBreak. Terms and conditions, not all will be eligible. Geographic, regulatory, and underwriting restrictions apply. Fees and terms are subject to change. Additional terms of service at BlockFi.com. BlockFi is a financial technology company. Banking services provided by Evolve Bank and Trust member FDIC. BlockFi.com/MacBreak. How cool is that? I guess I could ask Lisa how much Bitcoin she has now, how much it's worth, how much it's gone up. She's got that. It's nice. It's a black card. It's really nice. BlockFi. I am not giving up on my Bitcoin wallet. I have given it to many people. The deal is, if they crack it first, they get it. But now that it's, let me just see what it's at. It was $60,000 last time I looked. $63,731. And I have 7.85. Don't do the math. I don't want to know. I'm kidding away in that while. What makes me feel better? Steve Gibson put up a Bitcoin miner when this all first began because he was interested in the technology. He did a whole show on it. And the next morning he gets up, there's 50 Bitcoin in the slot. And he didn't think it was, that important, so he reused the hard drive sometime later and erased the whole thing.
Ouch.
Now,
ouch.
I am willing to do 50 times $63,000.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, I don't like to think about that.
A lot of money.
$3 million.
Yeah. I don't mention it anymore. Although I think Steve's listening. Sorry, Steve.
Sorry, Steve.
Oh, that hurts. All right. Elephant in the room time. There's a notch, kids. There's a notch. Now, I have to say, even for all of the noise about the notch when it first appeared on the iPhone some time ago, I completely got used to it. It doesn't bother me at all. And I think it's even less of an issue on a Mac. Yes?
It depends.
I don't care.
Yeah. I mean, it's
it's in the menu bar, right? Your Mac is giving you so much more room anyway. I mean, what it is right now on your MacBook is just a bezel. So you're getting more. They're eliminating a lot of the bezel. Some of that will be dedicated where the camera was on the bezel. Maybe more than it needs to, because it isn't a Face ID or anything like that. It's just a camera.
It does have 3 sensors, and it's the camera. It's also the True Tone sensor, and it's also an ambient light sensor. So it is taking up a good amount of space. It's a fairly noticeable notch. I go full screen a lot on Macs. So some of my full screen apps, are they going to have a notch in the top there, or will they not go as high? I don't know yet. Yeah. My attitude is that I don't love it, but I'll get over it. It's that I'm looking at my MacBook Pro right now, and I've got so many menulets installed that I actually use that it could actually become an issue. It's not an issue when it's plugged into an external display, but on its internal display, it could start shifting things around. I'm not sure how much I would enjoy. I would personally enjoy that. I will say though that I'm relieved that when there's a notch, there is still not Face ID, because that would have really bummed me out.
And maybe,
seriously.
So David Pogue's been going on and on about this on his Twitter account. He calls it Notchgate and says it's a tempest in a teapot. But somebody replied to him with an interesting thought that maybe, Jacob Sohn said, maybe this was going to be a Face ID notch. It's big enough to be if you don't put the True Tone sensor in there, and that could be anywhere else. But supply chain meant they couldn't do it. So maybe that's all that we're seeing here is that they wanted.
My big. Go ahead.
Or maybe they wanted a big enough sensor to deal with low light when you're doing conferencing. There could be a lot of reasons for this. But
here's a picture of the device in the notch, and as you said, Andy, it's got a lot of stuff there. There's a True Tone sensor, there's a light sensor, and then there's a camera. That's the LED camera on LED.
I have to admit that I'd prefer them to make the notch a little bit bigger if I got more things in it, like the being able to do a face scan and so on and so forth, so I could just open it up and it would unlock. All of those things would be more preferable to me. I think that up in the menu bar, I don't think it's going to matter to me. I mean, I don't think there's very many apps that I have that are going to be affected by that menu bar. I have a lot of things on my computer on in my resolution, and it's about a third of the way over maybe.
Here's somebody posted a mock-up of what DaVinci Resolve might look at. So the menu, because DaVinci has a long menu, goes right around the notch and appears on the other side. That's not ideal. Of course, what they may do is just start the menu lower, right? Or
I was going to say they might just lower it 10 millimeters or whatever. I'm with both Alex and Andy. It's not ideal, and I have like a lot of stuff in my menu bar, and when I'm not connected to an external monitor, I could see it being annoying. But at the same time, I mean, I would rather if it had like a Face ID sensor. Like I would rather it be there for that reason.
Well, and I bet you it does next year.
It is what it is. I'm sure. I guess from a design perspective, I'm not sure why they couldn't just move everything down the 10 millimeters they needed and just have that whole line of bezel. I know that there would still be some people who'd be mad about the lack of like screen to screen thing. I just don't know if the notch trade-off is worth it in a laptop. Like I understand completely in a phone. I don't know if in a laptop if it's worth it, but that's for their industrial designers to think about, not me.
Yeah, I think that a lot of designers get kind of bezel crazy. Where I've read, I'm sure you have too, reviews where it's like, oh, but damn, I mean, that 6 millimeter bezel just keeps staring at me, and I want to throw up. Say, dude, I mean, it's okay. It's not the worst thing that's ever happened. But to get back to Face ID, I would be very disappointed if they remove Touch ID and replace it with Face ID, because I'm doing the only thing that I don't like about my
I would want it removed.
My MacBook.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. I would like to have it as in addition to the Touch ID, because again, right here, I've got my external monitor on an arm, and it's actually covering what would be the Face ID sensor if that's where it would go. And the idea that I would either have to type in like a 23-digit password or have to go like this in order to unlock my Mac, that's a no-go. And that's the only thing I don't like about my iPad Pro this year, is that there's so many times where like I have to confirm a purchase, I have to double tap on the power button, but I want to like I keep double tapping it with like my arm, and my arm blocks the Face ID camera, and so it'll say, sorry, I didn't get Face ID, try it again. So that's why I would hope that they would include both the Touch ID and Face ID if they decided to do it.
I agree. I think that they definitely, I would never want to give up. I vastly prefer Touch ID over Face ID. I mean, it's just never, it's always like I have to look at it weird, and I just can't put my finger on it. And so I really want it back on my phone, and I definitely wouldn't want to lose it on the laptop. But I would love to have both, and have the convenience of that. And I'd also like to have the digitization appearance. So as an animator right now, what we're doing when we do like rough facial animation, we're using the phone as a separate capture device. So we tie that into things like Unreal and other things where you can sit there and having that information having that camera on the laptop means that I can be working, let's just say in cinema or something like that, have a face and just look up and go, and actually drive a face without having to pull out another device to do that. And it'd be useful for, again, given that the Pro is aimed at creatives, there's a lot of creatives that are interested in that kind of thing.
So on balance, I bet you everybody gets used to the notch
Right.
It's an elephant, but I don't know if it's a full-grown elephant. I don't know if it's more like a smaller Indian elephant as opposed to a.
It seems like we were all worried about the
elephant.
notch on the iPhone. We got used to it. I think,
This is the sort of thing that, like, again, if you're a design wonk, you make endless fun of it when, oh my God, Apple, I can't believe that Samsung put a camera bump and a notch. Like, Apple would never do that because they understand design. And then, like, as soon as Apple comes out with it, it's an elegant solution to a persistent problem.
it is an inelegant solution. I think we can all agree on that.
Yes.
But it is a problem, and you got to solve it.
We'll get over it. Yeah,
we'll get over it. I do say that I'm very excited about battery life. Both these laptops now have better battery life than an iPad. I never thought that would happen, right? In a million
Oh my
years.
God,
The numbers sounded insane. Like they were just like, and now it will be 17 hours. And you're like, what? And then they're like, and now it'll be 21 hours. And you're like, what? In the what?
So
Like,
the 14-inch model is 17 hours in video playback. Part of that is because there is hardware, video playback hardware, that takes over from the processor. So you can actually turn the CPU off.
You can fly from San Francisco to Singapore and watch movies all the way
Awesome.
there. Without
11 hours
Amazing.
wireless web browsing. That bests the iPad, or close to it anyway. 16-inch model is where you really go crazy. In fact, I might buy a 16 just because I want 21 hours of video playback, or 14 hours.
I think that's
browsing.
London to Delhi. I think is
And we should say that Apple's pretty good with their estimates. They don't.
Yeah.
They used to be you divide an estimate in half. Certainly, the PC world, that's still sort of that way. And Apple's not saying that's how long it's going to last in general. They're just giving you 2 examples of usage. But I think that you can expect that those hours, right, in that usage.
Well, except when you have rendering 8K out of Final Cut.
If you're doing motion while you're flying to Singapore, okay, it's another matter entirely. But that's just remarkable. Maybe explains why these are a little bigger, a little heavier. I don't mind. This is
as a pro, I would vastly mature.
I'm
happy. I would love. I hate it when they say it's this thin. I'm like, I'm a pro. I want you to tell me how thick it is, and I want you to add more battery, and I want you to add more power, and I want you to add all those, as many outputs that you can do. I mean, this is the pro version. This isn't the Air.
Yeah. And to Apple's credit, in the fine print at the bottom of their page, they have a lot of footnotes explaining exactly how they did the testing. So you can at least verify that in these conditions this is how it works. And that's, by the way, for all the benchmarks. There are something like 30 footnotes here on how they did the testing. So good on you, Apple, for being pretty forthright on that. Of course, when a non-tech does it, that's when I'm going to believe it. But
Yes.
I think this is, I'm sure, very accurate. Yeah. And boy, is that exciting. I mean, that means, I was gonna hold out for the Mac Mini like you, but I do kind of get around. And I love the idea of being able to do everything I want to do. It used to be we would say, oh, that's a desktop replacement laptop. You're only going to get an hour battery life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's got desktop power. Now, I don't know. Again, I would love to see somebody compare the existing Intel Mac Pros benchmarks to a 21-hour laptop. I think this laptop is faster than a Mac Pro, don't you?
Oh yeah, I bet you it is. And I think that the interesting thing is it's not just that it's one thing or another. It's like it's really, really fast and has really, really good battery life. And it's the composite of it is just, I don't know. I think I hesitate the best laptop out there, but it's pretty close. I mean, it's
I can't think anything
nothing
better.
that can compete at every level.
Yeah.
I keep comparing it to every time that I've looked at a top in power class Windows laptop. There's always so many caveats. It's always I've seen the kinds that have actually 2 power supplies because it just can't deliver enough power. And usually when they talk about battery life, they're really almost only talking about, well, it has a built-in uninterruptible power supply that can deliver up to 2.5 hours of power if you get a blackout. But it's
only 50 pounds, but yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly. And it'll be and the fans will be screaming, and you don't want to have. You can put a potato like behind the power ports, and it will be like cooked in about 40 minutes. This is one of the things that really gets me about these new laptops. They can say, no, this is a for real powerful laptop. This isn't. We just took a desktop machine, put water cooling inside it, put 2 handles on both sides of it, and will rent you out a motorized cart to haul it from one place to another. This is something you can actually just drop in a laptop bag and do professional level work with. You've got this tiny machine that you can connect, like every monitor in your house can be connected to this damn thing. That's ambitious, and that's significant.
User 7484 in the chat room says, I can't believe Apple made a laptop, brought back ports, made it heavier. Would this have been possible if Johnny Ive were still there? What do you think?
Yeah.
Well, if you look at the timing, it might have been part of why he left.
I was going to say.
Yeah. Like, I think that there might have been like, hey, there's a lot of people giving us feedback. And he's like, well, this is the way we're going to do it.
Over my dead body.
Yeah, well, if I'm
okay.
going to I'll quit over it. And then they said,
okay.
Here, I poured you a drink. Don't mind the bubbles in the foam.
Right.
No, I love Sir Johnny. He's brilliant. Did some amazing design stuff. But as often is the case with designers, maybe not Mies van der Rohe. Some people say, form over function or form follows function. But I think Johnny somewhat was willing to sacrifice function for making a beautiful device. And
I think definitely with the 2016, right?
Yeah.
Like I think that we can all agree, and I mean, who knows why he left and why those decisions were made. I'm not going to speculate, but I can't think that the keyboard, fiasco, the reaction to the touch bar, the reaction by pros to other things, and look, they sold bucketfuls of those laptops. But
yes, because I had to keep buying one to replace the keyboard.
Right. No, I mean, same. I had 3 keyboard replacements on mine. But
exactly.
But I feel like I feel like we can't understate just how poor the 2016 redesign was. When the biggest thing that we're all excited about is that. So this was on the top of Packer News today, but somebody posted something that the creator of Penboard, the bookmarking service, published at the end of October of 2016, and it was his Benjamin Button. They call it like a Benjamin Button review of like the next MacBook, and it was written, I think, as if it was like in 2025 or something, and it was talking about how it was a return to all the things that they got rid of, before. It was satirical, but it was exactly what they've done, which was returning the ports, making it thicker, having, the keys again, the escape keys and function keys. It's having better key travel. So the fact that this laptop, we're all excited about it, and I think that the specs and the actual innovation are amazing, but I think that a big part of this is, like I said, again, there's a complete referendum on what we had for the last 5 years, and I think a complete acknowledgement that we were wrong.
Good find on this. Let me read you what Maciej Ceglasky wrote. In 2016, the new MacBook Pro shows that Apple is finally becoming serious about developers. Gone is the gimmicky touch bar. Gone are the 4 USB-C ports that forced power users to carry a suitcase full of dongles. In their place, a cornucopia of developer-friendly ports, 2 USB 3 and Thunderbolt 2 ports, a redesigned power connector, and a long-awaited HDMI port. Photographers will... This is unbelievable. This is so prescient. 5 years ago, photographers will rejoice at the surprising and welcome addition of an XDX-C card reader, a sign that Apple might be thinking seriously about photography. The new MagSafe connector is a bit of Apple genius. What hasn't changed? The Retina display, storage, and memory. So he, 5 years ago, wrote in satire exactly what just happened.
Yeah. So well done.
Good job, Maciej. Thank you, Christina, for bringing that up. I love this guy, and that's absolutely amazing.
Let's also mention one other advantage of over the iPad besides battery. It has a headphone jack.
Ooh, must be
actually
that was
and a high end one. They've got a better DAC.
Exactly, it's like a fancy. Tell us about that.
Better DAC, higher impedance, so it'll drive like the really expensive headphones that everybody who edits 8K video has told themselves they absolutely have to have.
Oh my God, that's awesome. I was just, when they showed the pictures you mentioned earlier of the die, I just was blown away by how much bigger this was. I'd have to rewind to a few weeks ago. We were talking about what this next chip might be, and Renee was talking about what an X-level chip was, and it was essentially, an evolution. And so I really expected an evolution of the M1. But when you look at these pictures, this is not evolutionary. This is an incredible flex by Apple, showing that Apple Silicon, we control this platform and we can do anything. And just wait till next year is the message I'm getting.
Yeah.
Just unbelievable.
Give me a power cord and I will give you the universe.
Yeah. So anybody who was worried about the future of the Mac Pro, I think is going to be jumping up and down about 6 months.
And what's interesting is that the last time they did this, we got a trash can, right? You know, so the last time they said, we're going to do something completely different, what we got was something that was completely different.
Innovate.
And, you know,
it's like... You're right. What we all wanted was something stylish and didn't have a fan and could cool itself
so
naturally.
Johnny Ive, isn't it? It's Johnny Ive.
It's like,
I'm sorry, I don't want to slam Johnny Ive, but it's design over function.
Yeah, it was that and the 2016 MacBook Pro that really got me disillusioned about Apple's hardware plan for the Mac. It really got me thinking that, no, they don't really care about this. They're shoving it off to the side. They don't consider it a priority, because if they considered it a priority, they would make it way more competitive with all these Windows machines. And honest to God, if in 2017, I bought a new, my previous new MacBook was 2015. If it had died in 2017, if I spilled another Diet Coke on the keyboard and killed it, okay. I mean, I was very, very aware that I can't buy a MacBook Pro. I can't. It is absolutely unfit for my purposes, and I knew which model of ThinkPad I would be buying if I'm going to be spending $1,500 on a replacement instead of a MacBook, and that kind of killed me. But now I've never been more optimistic about the platform than I have.
Yeah, and I was the kind of person that bought almost every laptop that within 6 months of it being released, probably 3 months of it being released, that Apple released for 20 years, and I kept my 2015 for years. Like 4 years. Like I just...
Me too.
You know,
Me too.
I just kept on going back to my 2015.
We
I was like,
couldn't
I'm
get
not
rid
good.
of them because that keyboard alone.
I didn't like the keyboard. I didn't like the lack of the MagSafe. I didn't like all those things, and so that's the hardest part. If I was still traveling, I would have been on the list. It's just that I just don't leave that much.
Apparently, the MagSafe in this is even it's a much stronger magnet, which is actually good, because my only complaint about the old MagSafe was it would fall out sometimes a little too easily. This one
sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, this doesn't sound like it will. And yet, if you kick the cable, you won't pull your MacBook off the table. Here's Mark Gurman just tweeted, for those who think the M1 Pro and M1 Max in the MacBook Pro are impressive, the new Mac Pro desktop is expected to come in at least 2 variations, double and quadruple the number of CPU and GPU cores as the M1 Max. So, I mean, I remember we gasped when they said 32 cores. We gasped. Up to 40 cores and 128 GPU cores on the high end.
Yeah. Like that's, you know, these are big numbers. I mean, and again, to go back to something that Christina was talking about, with people, you know, doing a lot of other things other than graphics on these, they have to look at that trajectory and start to think, we might want to start thinking about how to write code for that, because it's if you look at the performance that's happening right now, and knowing that it's going to come in a year, it seems like it would make sense for anybody looking for heavy computing. Because remember that I still think that, you know, Apple tends to pace. So if they're going at this pace, they have a, you know, they don't put out everything that they know how to do every product. They put out a reasonable upgrade for every product. So if this is what they call reasonable, we might have, you know, 2, 3, 4, 5 years of this kind of growth. And so as the rest of the industry is kind of tapering off, they're hockey sticking, and it's a pretty frightening thing to consider. 400
gigabytes per second memory bandwidth. That seems like a lot.
It's enormous.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like
Just checking.
Insanely fast.
We're talking about the Macs, of course. Yeah.
But this of course gets back into the advantages that they have of going between the GPU and the CPU. They're not going out to an outer bus, so they don't have to go out to the board and go over and you know they don't have to go around the backyard and then through the thing and over to get to them. They're in the same house, and they're able to kind of move that data back and forth at extremely high rates, and that's part of what magnifies it. So beyond any of these benchmarks that we have, that's why you have to kind of check it inside of the app you're going to use, because those numbers are going to mean different things if the process is taking, if the developer is taking full advantage of the process, and it's the kind of process that can make that work. It could be huge.
Do you think Tim Sweeney is kicking himself right now for starting a fight with Apple? Wouldn't Unreal Engine be sweet on this platform?
And I will admit, the Unreal Engine, I love Unreal Engine. Use it all the time, or use it. I don't use it all the time, but we use it a lot for stuff. It's almost unusable on the Mac.
Right.
So it's like it's not like that's why I have a PC right here. The only thing it runs is Unreal Engine.
So that's the question. Certainly, professional software developers, like video and audio, but maybe even game developers, maybe game engine developers are going to be looking at this saying, gee, maybe we should be developing for this platform. Yes? No, I don't think the
none
of the
market
tools
for the
support
gamers is
it.
there.
The tools
No,
don't, yeah.
I mean, look, I think it could be, right? And I think that if I were running developer relations at Apple, and I'm not, but if I were, I would be reaching out to people who were looking at those things. I'd be reaching out to, people who are doing stuff in R. Like, these are the people I would be.
How do you convince them?
I mean, I think that you would try to say, look, the tools are coming, and this is the direction where things are going, and no one else is going to be able to catch up. No one else is going to be able to achieve what we can achieve.
Don't you think the tool makers are looking and saying, maybe we ought to adjust? Maybe.
I mean, maybe.
Let's start writing an engine. Maybe Unity ought to, maybe there should be somebody competing.
But I think the problem is that you have this library of Steam games, and unless Apple wanted to contribute to something like what Steam did for that, you have all these legacy x86 games which aren't going to come over, so that's going to hurt a big portion of your market. I think the other thing is that you just have to realize, like, the market, like, we all are all Mac buyers and owners, and I think the potential could be there to open the pie, but Apple hasn't. They want everybody to sell their games through their app store, and they want everybody to use only their APIs and only their tooling, which doesn't play well with cross-platform stuff. So if I was a game developer, as impressive as this stuff is, if I'm looking at having to maybe outlay a couple $100,000, and this is if it's a small game, for a port where I might only sell, a certain amount of titles, like, I just don't know if it'd be worth the investment, to be honest.
I think Apple needs to build its own a reference level game that they have Apple Arcade. They're already buying it, and a reference and what it needs to do is
maybe do an engine. What if they did an engine?
An engine's really complicated. They might be able to do it, but Unity
they can afford to get a 100-person team if they could find the engineers.
It's not a 100-person team.
It's 1,000 people.
It's more than that? It's not just people. It's time. It's
relationships as well. Yeah.
But I think that Apple could theoretically, and Unity I think does a good job. And by the way, Unreal publishes to Apple just fine. It's the development interface that doesn't work very well. So you can still build stuff in Unreal. I don't think Apple will be building anything new in Unreal if they on their own dime. But I think that if they built a game that was, let's say, something like what Epic did, and they built it so that it would scale seamlessly from the phone up to the desktop, and just keep on taking advantage of the processors. And again, now that they've unified all those bits and pieces, they could theoretically do something like that where it's scaling so it just takes full advantage of the hardware that it's sitting on, and whatever that hardware is, it just keeps on adding more detail. So it can add things like depth of field, it can add motion blur, it can add a lot of other bits and pieces. I'm just going to keep turning all this stuff up, and you have to think about that at the very beginning when you start writing the code, which no one really has done because no one's thought about building something that really scales that way. Except for
Apple should build an engine designed for this platform. The gaming market's a $175 billion market. It's going to be twice that in a year or two. This is a huge opportunity. Apple could own this.
I think that I think Reality Creator is kind of on its way to being an engine, a useful engine. I don't know if it's going to be a game engine, but Reality Creator does a lot of the things that you're talking about. I mean,
is that from Apple?
Yeah, it's a developer tool, and so it doesn't do. It's not going to. You're not going to build a game. You're not going to build a huge game in it. They're already doing simple games in AR and so on and so forth. But what it does is lets you build inside of a 3D space, and so you can take your objects and we're doing a lot of USDZ.
If you wanted to build an AR business, which Apple clearly does, you can't ignore the gaming side of that, and an engine that Apple controls. No.
I think
no, I agree with you. Sorry, I agree with you.
Yeah, this is something Apple has great ambitions in AR. This is a time for Apple. I wouldn't be surprised if there's something going on right now in Cupertino on this.
I think that the seed of that is when you look at what again, it's just that building a whole engine that does everything that we see Unreal Engine do and Unity Engine, it took them a long time to get there, and it just takes a lot to do that kind of thing.
Well, and there's a limited number of people who really can do it too. There aren't so many John Carmacks in the world.
You have to poach, a lot of people to do that, and so I will say that these kind of performance numbers could interest a guy like John Carmack to want to play. Yeah, because he's a real fiend for performance. And so I think that, but and if you get a John Carmack involved, then you're in a different space. But you have to have someone like that that's going, because not only does he bring the knowledge that he has, which is intense, but he also brings the cachet that will attract other developers, other people to your team if you're going to build something.
Right.
And he'd be the person that, if I was going to put someone as head of a team, that's who it was. But it would cost,
Facebook's got him. It's a big.
It would cost them eight figures.
Yeah, but at some point, money isn't the issue at all.
No, it's not. It's autonomy and other things. And he, I think, has a lot of autonomy at Oculus, and who knows what he would or wouldn't at Apple. But I agree. Like, I think if you were going to do it, you would need to bring a Carmack in.
That's who you need.
Also, the bottom line is, I think, fundamentally anything else, and this is why I think it's a good point to say they would need a reference game. You would need a game. You would need a hit. You would need something, a studio of some sort. And I'm not sure if they are willing to invest the money that you would need to invest, because it would be a $200 million project.
Yeah. Apple has more than $200 billion sitting in a bank account.
That would be minimum. I agree with you.
They can afford it.
I agree with you, but as we know, they could more than afford it. But Apple is cheap in a lot of these things. Like, they're frugal with their money. It took them a long time to
I think it's strategic. I think it's strategic for them. We know they actually make more money in gaming than Nintendo, Sony, Microsoft, and Activision combined. But that's in casual gaming, admittedly, and that's from 30% of the App Store. But they know it's a big business, and if you care about services, if you care about the platform, this has always been a laggard area for Mac. That's why there isn't a lot of money in Mac gaming.
I guess my question would be, you could. I guess my question would be, like, shouldn't you have done that 5 years ago? Like, shouldn't you have hired a Carmack or someone 5 years ago?
Well, maybe they knew they were working on on this new platform, and maybe they thought, well, let's work on the new architecture.
The other thing is that if I was going to do that, one of the first things I'd probably do is build something like Apple Arcade, and so because I get a lot of information about what people like, what they don't like, what they so you have a lot of
they have the pieces.
They're putting a lot of those things in place to be able to theorize.
Yeah, but again, it's casual gaming. But again.
That's how it starts.
Casual gaming.
I just feel like it's a different market segment.
It is, and they own that market segment, and I think they could also own the AAA gaming, and I think that there's going to AAA gaming, which for a while looked like a niche product, is clearly not anymore. It makes more money than the motion pictures, and it ties in neatly with their AR ambitions.
And, like, for instance, it's all I don't play anything serious because it would take too much of a time commitment.
Right.
So I play Kingdom Rush. That's all I play.
Well, I think Apple would do something that's not so much a game as a environment that you would play in. I think there's things Apple could do that'd be very, very interesting.
And again, as we get into closer to AR, that they have the opportunity to define a different kind of game.
That's right.
We've talked about even you can turn physical. One of the things we did some R&D for 3 or 4 years ago was scanned a golf course. Actually, my family's golf course. I had access to it, so we did a LiDAR scan of the whole golf course. And one of the things we were experimenting with, and back then the technology wasn't quite ready to go, but was the idea that we could play different games at the golf course with AR than everyone else was playing. So different set of rules. Like when you pick up your phone, you can see new targets that you want to hit in the fairway, or you can see things that are going to, so there's all kinds of things that you could be playing that aren't related to, they're not the traditional golf, because one of the problems golf has is that it's aging out. And so, how do you attract new players to something that might be interesting? You get out, you get to walk around a little bit, and then you also get to play a video game with your golf clubs, and so I think that those kinds of things, whether that one works or not, I don't know. Again, we were a little ahead, so we're waiting on that one. But I think that we're definitely, Apple is in a leadership position what they're doing with AR, and they're slowly piecing all those together. That's the crazy thing, is that they're putting in tools that don't make a lot of sense in motion unless you think about AR, and they're putting in tools in Final Cut that don't make a lot of sense unless you're thinking about AR.
So undoubtedly, desktops will go above 64 gigs, but that's the top. That's how the laptops top out: 64 gigs of RAM
in a laptop.
In a laptop. Also, it's unified memory. Is that adequate? Is that plenty? Is that all you need? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think for most people, no, you could do more, but I think for most people, it's very competitive.
And even for a pro.
Leo,
I mean, they showed Logic. They said even more Logic instruments and voices and things. So,
and when we get one that's the Max, just let me know, and I have the project that we can test.
Good.
There's a reference project that literally thumps everything.
Pushed
like
to
including
November.
the Mac
Pushed
Pro.
to November 17th, but I will have it November 17th. Okay. I'm going to throw. Anthony's got some motion projects that we know how long it takes on various machines. You got a file.
I have a file that I run on my it's in. I got to find out if Metashape actually works on it on the M1 if it's ready to go yet. But I run it in Metashape, and on my iMac it will run for 3 days, and then the iMac will just restart. Like in the middle of it, it'll just go. No, I can't do that.
Can't do it.
So
I can do it.
Like I tried.
Do it.
I tried for 3 straight days, and I'm.
How important is the hardware ProRes decoding?
It's huge.
Yeah,
it's massive. Because again, for creatives, it really makes it hard to do anything other than ProRes, because with a dedicated acceleration, it means that now 4K, 8K. Now, I can't remember how many streams they said, but as I was looking at it,
7 streams of 8K ProRes video, and I think they said 444. They showed on the screen 422, but I think
that wouldn't be that big of a. Even if it was 4 streams of 444, that is incredible. And to be able to do that on your laptop is kind of insane. And it's still, because one of the problems you get into is when you start. I've been doing a bunch of 8K work recently, and you start playing it back, and the big problem is you can't see it play back, right? It's chunky, and so you have to go, okay, well, when I render it out and when I get it just right, and so being able to do all of that.
This is in the footnotes. Final Cut Pro 10, 1-minute picture-in-picture project, 7 streams of Apple ProRes 422 at 8192 by 4320 and 30 frames a second. So it's not maxed out video, but still.
Yeah, but it's still. I mean, I'd be settling for 4K, 4K 60 or 4K 120 at 4 or 5 streams is on a laptop.
And this is a freaking laptop.
On a laptop, and
it's
so
a freaking laptop.
And that's a mixture of the CPU and GPU power as well as that drive speed. So a lot of playing that back has less to do with the power of the drive speed combined with a dedicated chip system is going to make it's going to scream. And so again, it really. As a creative professional, you have to really think about what you're doing if you're not on a Mac at this point. That has not been the case for a long time.
And it's not
Apple,
not just ProRes. It's, by the way, it's HEVC and H.264. So basically anything you're doing.
Oh, yeah. ProRes.
It's got hardware. Hardware.
Don't edit
encoding
and HEVC.
decoding.
That's HEVC and H.264. Like don't mix your formats. I know that they tell you can do it. Don't do it. It's bad. It's a horrible idea.
Don't do it.
That is a horrible idea.
Bad idea. Don't do it.
Everything goes to ProRes, then you edit. That's the most important thing people need to get today. They'll tell you they can open MP4. Don't do it. Don't do it. Just convert.
Anthony, I don't think I'm going to give you the laptop. I'm keeping it. I have no abs. You know what? I'll be keeping it, and I'll be doing like markdown files in Notepad or something. I mean, it's just it really is wasted.
You'll be
on me.
grepping like
so
no one's business.
Yeah, my Emacs is going to load so fast. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, those folders. The folders just opened.
GAN, the power adapter, we've got a little more information on that after the fact, is PD 3.1, the new power delivery spec for Type-C, which is very good. That means it's not limited to 100 watts anymore. What is it, 140 watts? So it's fast charging. It also is a GAN adapter, which is interesting. Apple's first GAN using gallium nitride technology, which means small. Nice. You could be smaller, faster, lower heat, and all of that. So even the power brick
Even that's more modern.
And I wonder how much there's so much math that goes into packaging anything for manufacturing. I wonder how much what the math was on if we switch to this new technology, we can put a smaller power adapter in the box, which means we can make the box smaller, which means we can fit more in each container, which means it will cost us a lot less money. It will offset the money that we spent on this more sophisticated charger technology.
I give credit to The Verge. John Porter questioned Apple about it and found out something. This was not revealed in the event. 140-watt charger and power delivery 3.1, which is a brand new standard. That comes with your 16-inch, or you can buy it separately for $99. I got the small 14-inch 67-watt charger, but I have a bunch of GAN 100-watt, and I don't think I have any PD 3.1, but I have a lot of charging bricks. We all do. This is going to be a charging brick to remember.
Yeah, this is a good time to upgrade. I'm about to upgrade to a new brick that can charge both my laptop and my iPad at the same time at full speed. And because now
that was your
they're
pick
kind of
last
affordable,
week, wasn't
they're
it?
kind of smarter. No, I think that was Renee's pick. But yeah, it got me once again taking a look at. A few years ago, I replaced most of my chargers with ones that supported USB-C and PD. Now it's like, yeah, but it would be nice to not have to slow charge to be able to fast charge multiple devices at once. And I was like, okay, maybe that would be a good $100 to spend.
After Renee talked about it, I went and searched for it, and I found one from Anker. Because I kind of like Anker. Same idea, 100 watts, 4 ports, 2 PD, 2 IQ chargers. But now I wish I'd gotten one with PD 3.1. So I guess
it's a mess. It used to be so simple when you just when you were just going to accept it's going to take 5 to 6 hours to charge something. Life was so simple. But now that's like, what do you have the right charger? Do you have the right cable? It's like,
what do they say? 50% charge in an hour, something like that.
Just something insane.
Something insane. Anything else that we have that you're excited about? Anybody's excited about that we haven't covered? It seems like there's so much. And again, the strongest impression I get is that Apple has been sandbagging us, and that they have really. There's a lot of headroom in this chip design.
Yeah.
The only other thing that I'd say is that while it's another one of those kind of sleeping things that I think we're going to see a lot more from, is that Logic dropped with, of course, there's a new Final Cut, new Motion, and new Logic. The object Motion and Final Cut have an object tracking, which I haven't gotten to play with there very much yet. But the other thing is that Logic now supports spatial audio, so it's supporting Dolby Atmos, and you could get a plug-in and have it kind of run okay before, and now it is. It's just in the app. so it's built into the app now. You can design it, and they put out some odd choice of music, but they have a Little Nas X, which is not really safe for work, that they used as the example file.
That's hysterical.
Which I think Apple works pretty hard at trying to break the stereotype of they're stodgy, and so they went edgy. But outside of that, it is. It's a pretty slick. I can show it to you if you want to see it. I mean, this is. I don't know why I have a music notification here. Here's the thing here. Now, if we open up the mixer, there we go. If you double click on this, you can see this is the designer. So this is the object designer.
Ooh.
So now you can
sweet.
see. So this is how you can design it. So this is the height. So here's the height in the room, and then this is position in the room. And now this is a Dolby Atmos object. You can tell from the height those pieces here. And if you look, the square ones here are objects, and then the round ones. If we open up this one, this is a bed, and so you can see how this works here. And so you're able to now design all of this inside of Logic, where it was, there was a plug-in to do it in the past that was more difficult. So the fact that it's now just built into Logic is pretty impressive and really well implemented from a user perspective. From just the UI is really nice. And so we're going to be playing with it a lot. I'm going to be playing with it a lot. And so but that's being able to, again, one of the things that Apple is doing when it comes to a lot of what they're doing in the future is the ability that owning those apps and developing those apps allows them to constantly be, basically have control over their own destiny. You know, that they can say, well, we're going to put it into Logic, and that presses the whole industry down the path of doing more spatial. And the stuff that they're doing with Final Cut and Motion is useful for them when it comes to AR, when it comes to content creation, but it keeps goading the rest of the industry to keep moving forward and take advantage of the hardware.
It's going to be very interesting. And I'm glad I'm getting the base model 14-inch just to see. I bet you it will.
I bet you it'll
be pretty fast. Yeah. Certainly my Emacs will load in lightning time.
Yeah.
The number of CPU cycles between flashes of that insertion cursor has just gone up by like 100, and you can feel it, baby.
Yeah, man. Oof.
I hear text edit is just unbelievable. You know, it's just 120 frames per second as those characters start coming out. It just feels like you're just thinking them out.
I also have to say, Unleashed was the right name for this event because it was off the hook. It really was.
I will say that also the production was pretty good.
Yeah, they didn't go all over the world though this time. I thought they might.
No,
this was pretty much back to Apple campus and up and down in the elevator and stuff.
If you watched it listened to it with headphones and you
was it
watched
spatial?
It's Apple's pseudo-spatial. so Apple takes everything that's stereo and kind of goes, I'm going to spread this out a little bit and make it a lot better. I even thought that at first it was, that it might be spatial, but it is. I don't think it was. We've decided, we kind of all conferred within office hours, and we've decided it's not. But it just sounded really good. Like the sound design was top notch. The music coming in, the transitions, and then the video. They keep on getting better. You feel like every one of these is getting better and better and better at this new kind of video production keynote. And I think that we're going to see them come out and announce other videos. Like I think that when we come back, the transition is going to be like the press comes in, they still get to talk to Apple employees, still get to play with the hardware. But what they're going to do is, Cook's going to be up there and he's going to go, and now let's look at this next video. And they come back and it wasn't that great. Let's look at the next video. Because I don't think you can go back to, these kind of keynotes. Like I look at, after looking at this one, I look at other keynotes that are attempting to reproduce the stage experience. And it's really slow, and I don't think I could watch another stage.
No, even the Google Pixel event earlier today seemed kind of dopey and even dumpy.
That stage experience, I think, is just, I think it's important to bring people into the room. It's important to have them get access to the hardware, get access to the company. Those all still make sense. But I think Apple is just crushing the idea for a Fortune 10 company. I don't think that the stage presentation, it's just so much slower. And the executives aren't good enough to really pull it off on stage most of the time. It just feels very flat. And here we get to see everybody at their best take every single time. And so without 5 million people watching.
No, but they didn't bother with Lisa Jackson on the roof. They didn't bother with a performance in the redwood forest or any of that stuff. It was kind of tame compared to the last time.
Production, the iPhone's a bigger market. We love the Mac. We're very excited about it. We spent a ton of time talking about it. But the iPhone is a bigger market with a bigger budget.
Yeah, yeah. Anything else? I think we covered pretty much everything. All right, let's take a break, and when we come back, picks of the week. It's great to have Christina Warren here from Microsoft, senior cloud advocate there. And a Mac lover. Let's not forget, she spent $4,000 this yesterday on.
Look, my nickname is CMac. So
there you go.
This is.
So as you walk around the campus, they don't say, "Oh, where's your Surface?" They go, CMac.
No, yeah, exactly. No, they understand. No, and I like Windows 11 a lot, and I like the Surface devices a lot. But everybody knows, I'm a Mac head, right?
Yeah.
I'm a tech head, but I got my start writing about Mac stuff and. So, yeah.
No, and you can, I think WSL and Windows 11 is really great, but you've got full BSD underneath the hood on a Mac. So it's really a great developer machine. It really is.
It is. And I'm looking forward to putting Windows 11 in parallels on the new machine. And
will you be able to do that? Don't you have to use the WoA version? The Windows
the ARM version.
Yeah. Okay, well, have fun.
Yes, yeah.
Have fun
But I'm
with
interested
that.
in seeing what the performance is like on that.
Apple really has, honestly,
it's fun to play.
boot camp's gone. They've really kind of decided we don't have to support Windows anymore, particularly.
Yeah.
We're kind of done with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Andy Anako, WGBH, great to have you. Did you get your Pixel 6?
I just did.
Congratulations.
I guess they must have released people who got kicked out of their carts.
Did you get the one you wanted? Did you get the black one with 512 gig?
Black 512 gigs. It's not going to be
Nice.
delivered until November 6th through the 9th, but I will take that.
Nice. Congratulations. I can't.
Congratulations! You just spent like $1,000.
Yeah, 1,100.
But it was an ordeal. I feel as though I've been tested by
earned it.
fire and come out.
You earned it. Yeah, mine went through, but I forgot what I ordered. I don't think. I keep waiting for the email saying what I ordered. I don't remember. It doesn't really matter. I got the Pro at least, and that's mostly what I'm interested in is those cameras.
Right.
Alex Lindsay, it's always great to have you. I'm sure you talked this morning a lot about Apple's laptops and.
Well, we watched it. About 100 of us in office hours watched it yesterday. So that's become
fun.
the thing. It's kind of a watch party.
Fun.
So we don't play it into Zoom, but we all sit in Zoom and then we sit there. So you hear us all just talk. We're like a secondary experience of a whole bunch of us all just talking about what we're seeing. And so there's a mixture of talking about the production value as well as like, did they do this thing and is that really an Atmos? And then the other side of it, of course, is there was a lot of like, wow, it's a big processor. That's a lot of processing, So that was a lot of it was a good time. But that's what we've kind of gotten into the habit with a lot of these keynotes is that we just watch them in our after hours because that runs all day.
Yeah.
So whenever they have it.
Yeah. That's of course officehours.global. If you want to know more, everybody can have office hours running in the background.
It's like my radio station when I'm not here. It's like a radio station that every once in a while. But the difference is every once in a while. I go, I'd like to participate with that radio station and start talking to people about something, and then I go back to whatever.
Is there a limit on the number of people who can listen live, or is that just kind of unlimited?
I think we're limited to right now. I think we're limited to like 500. So
because you don't want that too many people participating, otherwise it would get to be a zoo.
We've got a lot of when you do it every day and you do it all day, it becomes everyone kind of knows how they want to talk. So we have people raise their hands and they, there's a protocol. And so it actually very rarely does it get hectic. It's pretty calm and people kind of queue up when they want to talk about stuff. And then a lot of times on any given time, there's 30 or 40 people in there, but there's only 2 or 3 people talking to each other and about some subject. And then a
lot of people are just passively listening, and then some get active at different times.
What's interesting is they're passively listening, but then you can see them there and say, hey, are you actually there? And we have one person I won't call out. I think I might have done it before. I got in trouble. But you call his name 3 times, and he's got a script set up that the light turns on in his office.
Beetlejuice.
So we're like, we need to know. We call his name 3 times, and suddenly he just appears. He's like, hi guys. And you're like, that's a
great script. That's a good idea. That's really fun. We didn't actually talk about Monterey, which will be coming out also, on Monday. It's kind of the day before the Macs early editions start arriving in people's mailboxes. Universal Control, which was very exciting, has been delayed. It'll be launching, according to Apple, later this fall. So that's one little thing we didn't mention. I'm sure we'll have lots to talk about with Monterey next week. Renee Ritchie should be back. Christine, I'm really glad you could join us in his place. It's always a pleasure having you. Our show today brought to you by IT Pro TV. October is Cybersecurity Month in the general world, but also at IT Pro TV. Cybersecurity, of course, is one of, if not the most vital aspects of IT. And there are a lot of job openings. Last time I checked, it was more than 1 million open cybersecurity jobs in IT. That's a lot of jobs. And we need to get qualified people to fill these roles. If you're interested, if you listen to our shows and you like technology, maybe you should check out IT Pro TV. It's the place to get a job in IT. Start your career or keep your career boiling over, getting good jobs, getting promotions with IT Pro TV. It's the place to learn IT, to get certified in any area, not just cybersecurity. It's also the place to get recertified and to get new skills under your belt if you're already working in the industry. IT Pro TV is the freshest possible content. They have 7 studios in their Gainesville, Florida headquarters. 7 studios, and they're all running Monday through Friday. And that's because things change. The MCSE cert, which was a big Microsoft cert, going away. They have 5,800 hours of on-demand IT training, always up to date. The tests change, the software changes, new certs come out. Nobody does it better than IT Pro TV. Now, let me talk about October, spooky month at IT Pro TV. Jam-packed with events focused on cybersecurity. There have been a number of events. You can go and check those out. They've been recorded and available. There's a webinar coming up at the end of the month on the 28th. It'll be Halloween-themed, CyberSec Incident Response for Small Businesses, Avoiding the Nightmare on Main Street. You can find out more at itpro.tv/webinars. You're all invited. There's a free weekend coming up this weekend, October 23rd and 24th. And, of course, as a special for this month's themes, the following courses will be part of the IT Pro TV free membership this weekend. CompTIA's Security Plus, CompTIA's CYSA Plus, CEH, the Certified Ethical Hackers Cert, and CISSP. By the way, they're the official video training partner for CompTIA, so they have lots of CompTIA courses. All the certs, these are often the first certs people to get into the industry, like the A+ cert. So this is a great place to go. IT Pro's instructors, they call them edutainers, are experts in the field, working professionals, but they also are experts at communication. They make learning IT interesting, and I have to say fun. You're going to get the most up-to-date information while preparing for exams, brand new content. It goes from the studios to their course library within 24 hours. They've got a great pipeline there. Courses are chunked up nicely, 20 to 30 minutes, so it's really easy to watch on your lunch hour or whenever you've got a moment. They have searchable transcripts for all their courses, makes it great to just jump to the part you need to work on. And the edutainers that work for IT Pro TV are on staff, so you can ask them for help anytime. They're also available no matter where you are. You can watch on the web, in your browser. They've got apps for all the streaming devices, so it really makes it easy. This Chromecast works with it, so you can watch it on the big screen TV, then get in the car, listen in the car, get to your work, watch in a little picture-in-picture window on your screen. You could do it all day, all night. The IT world needs qualified cybersecurity professionals right now. Get your cybersecurity certs with IT Pro TV. Go to itpro.tv/MacBreak for an additional 30% off all consumer subscriptions for the lifetime of your active subscription when you use the code MacBreak30. itpro.tv/MacBreak. Offer code MacBreak30. That is an amazing break. 30% off forever. As long as you stay active, you're going to get 30% off. IT Pro TV. Build or expand your IT career and enjoy the journey. itpro.tv/MacBreak. Christina, I don't know. Did you want to do a pick of the week? You get to anything you want. If you want to pick the Surface Pro, go right ahead.
Surface Pro. No, actually, this came out, I guess it was maybe last week, but the famous diff tool comparison Mac app, Kaleidoscope, was finally updated. I think it's on its 3rd owner now, but it's been updated for a version like 3.0, 8 years since version 2 came out. And if you're somebody who does a lot of diffing, whether it's with images, which is what's unique about this, it's a really great tool. It integrates with Xcode and a bunch of other things. And just really, really happy that the new developers are giving this love and that this tool that I've used for many, many years has been updated again.
And it's M1 native, which is great, or M native. I guess we're going to have to come up with a new description of M1.
It's super useful.
Oh, you use it too?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, when we're dealing with XMLs and HTML, or XMLs and HLS manifests and so on and so forth, figuring out what was different from the one that we had before is
very nice. I love it that it works with image files as well. Kaleidoscope.app, and it is a Mac app. Looks like it's not on the App Store. You have to get it from the website.
Yeah, you have to get it directly from the developers. It is not a subscription. It's a one-time purchase.
Love that.
Although they do have, if you bought, because there used to be in the Mac App Store, I think they have a way where they can get you an upgrade. the history of it is kind of storied. The original developer was acquired by Facebook, and then they sold to someone else, and then they sold to someone else, and now
that's my worst nightmare.
Exactly. So it's kind of been through a development hell thing. But the devs who've taken over it have been in the Mac app space for a really long time, and they've put a lot of love into it. I bought it last week, and I don't know. I like to support good source of tools. I will say it's expensive. You can try it out to see if it's for you, but for me it's one of those things where it was an easy thing to agree to purchase, especially knowing that they kind of had to go and rebuild it from the ground up based on its older principles. So,
nice, very good. Thank you very much. It's so good to have you on the show. Always like seeing you.
Thank you for having me.
We appreciate it. Doing good work at Microsoft with a senior cloud developer advocate, Christina Warren. Mr. Andy Anako, pick of the week.
I thought I was going to get zorched out of buying a phone today. I kind of had my heart set on buying a phone. So I bought a phone. It's the Fisher-Price toy telephone, the classic chatter telephone.
Oh, but the color scheme is fantastic.
But yeah, and also it's a special. It's only available through Best Buy. This version is identical to the real toy, but it has Bluetooth, so it'll actually work as a phone. So
you're not joking.
I'm not joking. It will. You can dial numbers with the little colorful dialer. You can answer calls. You can.
I thought you were joking. Wait a minute.
Joking.
You can have this, and it's on wheels, so it's portable.
It's on wheels. The eyes go bubbly like
Wait
the real thing.
It's got Bluetooth, so you pair it to your phone, and then you're using
a working phone.
It's a working phone. And also has a speakerphone, so just make sure it's a serious business conferencing device. The only bummer is that, well, I guess it is retro, so it kind of is fitting that it charges via mini micro USB, but it will charge and you get 7 hours of talk time, 40 hours of standby time.
I want
it has
this for
wheels,
my
so
desk.
you can push it. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly why I bought it. It's $60. It's not like nothing, but I feel as though I kind of want this on my desk, and at least. Maybe it'll be less harrowing when the phone rings and I know that it's a voice call. It's like, oh, damn it.
And the color scheme goes so well with my Crayola keyboard. So between next time I interview somebody for a job here, I'm going to use that and this. And
exactly.
And maybe they'll say, I'm not working there. They don't take anything seriously. Wow. $60. Fisher-Price.
I want this.
It's available at Best Buy. It's
only available at Best Buy. They're obviously limited. They just released it today, and supposedly limited quantity, so they're not going to restock it. So I don't know whether they.
It's actually harder to get than the Pixel 6. I got to be honest. Wow, that's.
Oh, I did see. It was less. See, the thing is, it was friendly. All I had to do was say, "Hi, I have money to purchase this thing that you're selling," and Best Buy said, "We will be happy to sell it to you." Then, if you have, and they just simply sold it to me. They didn't have to have me stick by refreshing a page for 4 hours.
We gotta watch the ad for this. Watch, this is great.
Yeah, the video is perfect.
The past has finally arrived
with the Horizon
bulky design. Intuitive
motion
interface,
graphics. Yes.
Hands-on technology, numbers, colors, eyes. Your first mobile phone is now a real mobile phone. Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Nicely done. Well done, Fisher-Price.
Wow.
You know what? They know kids aren't buying this. Those parents aren't buying it for their kids. They're buying it for themselves.
Also, because kids don't know how to dial it. How to use the dial. It's like,
does the dial work?
Right.
The dial works.
The dial works? Like I can dial a number?
You can dial it. You can play. You lift the handset, dial an actual number, and
it's a good way to teach. It's a good way to teach our kids about the archaeology, of the phone, and they'll learn why you should never have a 0 or especially 2 zeros in your.
And I bet it really takes a long time on the Fisher-Price phone. What is your pick of the week, Alex Lindsay?
So I think it's Satechi.
Satechi.
Yeah. And here I'll cut to this. This is my pick for the week. So these little guys down here are they basically go into one of my USB-Cs, and they give me 3 more this is a little hub for my Mac Mini. What I love about it is that I can just stack it with the Mac Mini. So I just plug it into the back, and now I've got my USB-C in the front, but I've also got 3 more USBs. I've got a SD card and micro SD card. I use the micro SD card a little bit more, and I got one for each one of these, and it's just really been great because I use a lot of stuff, and I wanted stuff on the front that I could just kind of plug in, and so I could.
It has an SSD enclosure, so it could even be a drive.
It's the SS chip. So I put a 1 terabyte in there. So it's the card, so it's got a little.
So M.2 SATA SSD drive would work.
Yeah, just in case you're wondering, not an NVMe.
Not NVMe.
Not that I bought the wrong ones and tried to force it in, not knowing why it wasn't working. So because it doesn't have the 2
SATA.
grooves.
It's SATA.
It's SATA. They're not the same. Yeah. So anyway, I did go through that process. I'm sending. I can't even keep them because I'll just use them anyway. But it's a 1 terabyte drive. It's not as fast as the SSDs are capable of.
It'd be a good time machine drive or something like that.
It's like 360 megs a second. Yeah. So it's not like it's I can't believe that I'm going. I built RAIDs. I spent lots of money on RAIDs that would go 180 megs a second, 15 years ago.
I know, isn't it
now
amazing?
I'm like, well, it's not that good, but it's only 360 megs a second. But as a just to hold my iPhone library, because my photos library or whatever. But the thing is that my Mac Minis don't have very much drive space on them.
Right.
So having something that's just an extra that I have just another terabyte on it is pretty nice. I'm really happy with it. I mean, other people make hubs. It's just that what I really wanted was hubs that would just stack with the ones that I already, with the thing that I had. So if that's what you're looking for, it's a really great little device.
Sateki does good stuff. So that's nice. Yeah. Very cool. I'm going to do a pick. It's actually been one that's been lying around in my my pick bin for a while, but it's slowly expanded bit by bit. Will Green is doing something very interesting at systemtalk.org. He's doing a Macintosh history in a very interesting way, not like Andy Hertzfeld, not anecdotal. He's actually taking Mac user magazines and one by one synopsizing them. So this is the first Mac user. Remember, this came with your Mac, the subscription to Mac user when you first got a Mac. And so he's just kind of talking about the various things, summarizing little page grabs here and there. Here's a suspect advert from Infocom. Yes, I love Infocom and Suspect. And so this is, I think this is really neat. He's just begun this journey, so he's only got 4 issues so far. The October 85, November 85, December 85, and January 86 issues of Mac User. I hope he keeps doing it. It's a great idea, and I have to say it's really fun going down memory lane. There's John Dvorak's The Devil's Advocate column, in which he said, "Why would anyone want a mouse?" So it is really a trip down memory lane. And it's, it's just a nice little idea for a blog, systemtalk.org. And I thought I'd give him a little plug. Nothing to buy here. Just Will Green going down memory lane. He has other posts, 4 of them now, but more to come. Thank you, Christina. Great to see you. Anything you want to plug? Anything you want to say?
I apologize for the quality of my internet connection. I blame my own networking setup. That's my fault. And but no, I mean,
I own my own network.
It is. I do. I do a podcast called Rocket, relay.fm/rocket, and I do another one called Overtired. So if you want to listen to me talking
Overtired.
Stuff,
brilliant.
Overtired are the 2 things. Yeah.
That's a brilliant name for a podcast. Christina is Overtired.
We thought so. Exactly.
Is that also on Relay?
It is not. That's an independent one that I do with my friend Brett Terpstra, and that's an Overtired Pod.
I know Brett.
That's an Overtired. Yeah, that's at overtiredpod.com.
Very nice. That's great. I'll be listening to that. 2 ADHD nerds with lots to talk about. Overtiredpod.com.
And usually Taylor Swift. So
little Tay-Tay.
A little Tay-Tay. Always
a little Tay-Tay. Everything in for Tay-Tay. Mr. Andy Nako, when will you next be on GBH?
I'm on at 1 p.m. on Friday. Go to WGBHnews.org live or later to stream it. I'm also actually going to be on WGN in Chicago tomorrow at a little before 10 a.m., probably talking mostly about Apple's announcements yesterday.
Oh, good. Back to your old stomping grounds.
Yes, I've been allowed back into Chicago.
Back into the Tribune building.
It was a temporary. Yes. My Chicago privileges have been restored.
And Alex Lindsay, of course, some great stuff always on officehours.global. I still haven't made that chai recipe, but I can't wait to do that.
So good.
Oh, we talked about it on Sunday. Alex was on Twit. Anything else coming up on Office Hours?
You know, we're really getting focused. Next week will be a lot of fun to watch. We're switching to what we call Office Hours 2.0, which is that won't look as much like a Zoom. It'll look more like broadcast. So they're super sources, but those, much like we have here, but except that those super sources will largely be driven automatically. So we have a bunch of stuff that's watching all of that, and then people will be able to run it from anywhere in the world. So imagine switching between all the different things, but you're on an iPad connected to the cloud, and you're just sitting there going, I want the super source, and I want this person, and I want to go back to the gallery. And so we're kind of experimenting with a new way to build shows. And so next week will be horrible. That's my prediction. But the week after that will be great. You know, we'll be basically figuring it out. So we've got some great guys from Liminal that are coming out that have been working on it. And so basically you'll just see us kind of turn it on and the whole thing will swing back and forth. But oftentimes people enjoy those shows the most. So
Alex is really inventing the future of media here at Office Hours. It's really interesting what you're doing.
It's a fascinating thing.
Office Hours.
We talked about Logic this morning.
I see that. What you were showing earlier. Yeah.
We're just a little excited.
Surround sound and all of that. You can also find Alex if you're looking for a company to help you with your next big production at 090.media. 090media.com. 090media.com. There you go. I got it right. No dot. Wait a minute. 090. No, see, I got it wrong.
Media.
It's 090.media. I was right the first time. All right. 090.media. That was exhausting. I'm overtired, Christina. That's the problem. I always say because that's what they say at 090. We thank you all for joining us. We do Mac Break Weekly on Tuesdays, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 1800 UTC. I will be back next week to do the show, but then I'll be taking off to Mexico for a week, but it'll be kind of my farewell appearance next week. Maybe if Apple and UPS get the job done, I'll have a new laptop to show off. I know Renee will. I'm sure Renee will. We'll have him next week. If you want to watch live, go to twit.tv/live. There's live audio and video streams there. If you're watching live, chat with us live at irc.twit.tv or in our Club Twit Discord. If you're interested in joining Club Twit, it really helps us, supports what we're doing here, and I think there's some good benefits, including ad-free versions of the shows and access to the Discord and special feeds. Lisa and I will be doing a Inside Twit on Friday for the club. Find out more at twit.tv/Club Twit. On-demand versions of this show and all our shows available at the website. In this case, twit.tv/MBW. There's a full-time YouTube channel dedicated to each show, including Mac Break Weekly. And, of course, the easiest thing to do is subscribe in your favorite podcast player. And if you do that, leave us a 5-star review. It sure helps to spread the word. Thanks for being here, everybody. It was a fun show. We got some really interesting stuff to talk about this weekend, I think, for the next few weeks. We'll see you next time. But now, I'm sad to say, get back to work, because break time is over. Bye-bye.
Do you have an iPhone, an Apple Watch, an iPad, or any number of Apple devices? Well, you have got to check out iOS Today with me, Micah Sargent, and Rosemary Orchard. We cover all things iOS and help you get the most out of your devices.